Hey guys, OGalbina here, bringing you guys our Trick House Haunter season. I don't remember what season Trick House it is. It might be 3 or 4 run. This is gonna be like a movie type video, a little mini documentary, I guess if you call Pokemon a documentary. We're gonna be kind of going over our full season. My mic is super far away, so I'm gonna move it closer. We're gonna be going over our full season, our team, our run. I had a really fun team and a really fun season, and I thought this season was really interesting for one particular reason, and I'm sure you saw in the title. But we only drafted one Stealth Rocker, and I can tell you right now, we never used Stealth Rock the entire season. Not at all. As I'm sure you can hear Snowy making a mess in the background. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, we never use rocks this season, and I think it's a really big indicator on the meta and just how Gen 8 draft was, where I felt comfortable, and I obviously wouldn't be uploading if I didn't perform well. That I felt comfortable and performed well without ever clicking rocks and only having one rocker, and it isn't even a conventional rocking type like rock, steel, or ground. It was you'll see it in a second. I'm not going to spoil the draft. I might as well go through it all one by one. As you can see, my steel doesn't have what do you call it, rocks, and you can kind of see the next one, so I'm gonna move it up so you can't actually see that. No, it's all good. We're just gonna keep rolling with it. But yeah, definitely a really fun team, and an interesting kind of way to look at this Generation 8 metas. It's kind of at least set in stone right now. I don't know if it's winding to a close. I don't know if we'll have a bunch of changes with BDSP and Legends of Arceus. I doubt we will, actually. I think the meta will be same until Gen 9, but at least that it's set in stone. You can see that you can succeed in a metagame like this without having rocks. So I think that'll be interesting. We'll go ahead and jump into it now that we have that out of the way. You see our non-rocking steel type and Scizor. I believe I had a pretty low-end pick, so I ended up round 1ing Mega Scizor. I think this Pokemon is phenomenal in a metagame with no hidden power. I know that's a very, like, I just started playing Draft League kind of thing to say, but it really is very nice for this thing. It does just absolutely stuff so many Pokemon now that before they could kind of cheese past it, now they can't. SD Scizor is great, Bullet Punch, Knockoff, U-Turn, gets access to Defog, it could be Cursed Scizor. It gets extra dual wing beat now, which is like a cool niche coverage move. You're not typically going to run, but you know, definitely can be run. And it's just very good at what it does, being a fat defogger, being an SD or Curse sweeper, just grabbing great momentum and, you know, doing annoying Mega Scizor things. As you would expect from Mega Scizor. There we go. That's a good fix. Next up, you kind of saw the text if you're reading before, but we grabbed Zygarde next, a ground type that can't rock. And usually when you grab Zygarde or you grab Scizor, you make sure that the opposite typing, whether it be steel or ground, can rock. And I didn't do that this time. I really wanted to use Zygarde Mega Scizor because they're really good to get. Scizor's a great ice resist, as well as it bullies fat grasses, which Zygarde does not appreciate. The only thing that they both don't appreciate is going to be fat waters, but we can definitely mitigate through that. Zygarde has the most spammable move in the game in my mind in 1,000 Arrows. There are no immunities unless your name's Shedinja or something like that. I can click 1,000 Arrows for free. I can sub and tox you. There's another Pokemon that loves the, you know, removal of hidden power, obviously. Not having to worry about hidden power ice, meaning we set up on so many more things. We just absolutely sit and bully so many more things. We can obviously have it for glare support, priority and extreme speed. 2 forms of setup in Coil and Dragon Dance, which is again very, very solid. And we're just gonna throw 1,000 Arrows. That's what Zygarde does. It sub-toxic, protects, it coils and Dragon Dances, and most importantly, it throws off 1,000 Arrows, which is gonna be the main goal, obviously, of this Zygarde and this team. And you see that Scizor absolutely bullies grasses and potential ices. And we grabbed another Pokemon the next round that also did that, but also gave us a great speed tier in Cinderace. Cinderace, funny enough, is my all-time kill leader. Cinderace is first, and Zygarde is second. But I've only drafted Cinderace in Gen 8, and I drafted Zygarde a couple times in Gen 7, so it's crazy how well I've done with this Pokemon. Granted, I've gotten to use Libero a couple times, I believe 3 times up to the time we're recording this, because I got to draft Libero, Ace, and OLT, which is another one I might upload, because that was actually no boots, like boots were banned, so that was actually a completely different meta. I had plenty of rockers and spikers, but regardless, Cinderace is very, very solid. Again, phenomenal speed tier, and what is it, base 119? Yeah, base 119, really, really good to get jump on, not only base 110s, but 115s. Pyro Ball is ridiculously spammable. I get momentum and U-turn. I can click fat high jump kicks, gunk shots, iron heads, good coverage, good fast taunter. It gets Super Fang, priority, and sucker punch. Plenty of cool options. And then obviously another great option is court change. Bulk Up's another cool option too, but court change is good for, you know, swapping hazards, you know, doing things like that. We might be able to control hazards that way, which is, you know, definitely cool, especially for a team with one rocker. Next up, I want to grab a Fat Water, kind of, round out the bulky end of my team. Not even round out, just kind of add to it. And Vaporeon. Vaporeon is a little bit passive, and it can definitely be exploited by better players and in certain matches by certain offensive threats. But I still think it's very good. It has access to Scald, obviously, to, just pass burns around, be annoying, with a pretty respectable special attack stat. 110 really isn't that bad. So it's not the most passive thing in the world. It can Ice Beam as well. I've seen offensive Vapo not do terrible. A big thing with this gen is it got Flip Turn, which is a great momentum move. It had Baton Pass before, but that was taunt fodder, potentially just like the rest of Vaporeon. Now you can Flip Turn out and even do a little bit of chip damage. You can obviously Wish Teched up, you can Heal Bell, you can throw Fat Toxics. Getting a good Cleric is really important for Zygarde as well, in my opinion. And Scizor, obviously don't want to be toxic and burned and things like that. So again, I'll definitely take it. Vaporeon can grab momentum and pass wishes the rest of our team, and that's really what it's here for. That's its only job. Next up, I want to grab a Ground Resist because I didn't have one, and I ended up grabbing Serena. They were all going like wildfire. I got sniped on a ton of grasses. I ended up getting stuck with Serena for like the 50th time in my draft career when I didn't want it. But it's here. It's a little bit better this gen. Obviously, with the Rapid Spin buff, it got U-Turn. It can, High Jump Kick and Power Whip and Triple Axle things, which is definitely really, really solid. It always looks so much better on paper than it really is. I'll be honest, this is a mod I don't really like. I end up drafting it, and then it ends up getting 2-hit KO'd by Bandit Earthquake by something or something like that. It's not the sturdiest grass type in the world, unfortunately. It has a really whack speed tier, and despite its offensive stats and good coverage, it just feels like it never has the best offensive matchup, or at least as many good ones as it really should. But it's definitely a good spinner. Grass momentum and U-turn. It's also another Cleric and Aromatherapy, so who knows? It could definitely be useful potentially. And there has been games where I've used Serena's put in work. Just my overall consensus is that I'm not very impressed with it. We'll see how it goes this season though. Next up, I have Thundy T. I want to grab a little bit of oomph, a little bit of that wall-breaking power. We kind of were lacking it up to this point. Thundy definitely does so, and something that it really offers to this team is it breaks down those fat waters the rest of our team doesn't do, which is great. It gives us something a little bit above weight base 100, but also just around that base 100 speed tier, forcing those 110s to not go Modest and Adamant, which next closest was Zygarde, and they definitely could up to that point. So that's obviously clutch. It can obviously nasty plot and agility up. It can volt switch around. It can focus blast, it has sludge wave. It has a grass knot, which is important. Obviously, being an electric type, you want your electric to obviously have coverage for grounds and things like that. I really like Thundy. I think it takes good positioning. You have to properly position it, but that 145 special attack stun ain't no joke. With like a Life Orb or Specs, or even if I go Boots, being able to avoid rocks and giving myself more options to set up, or more. Why do I keep saying options? More abilities to set up and things like that. Opposed to before, when I'm taking that 25, I might not lift that hit and get that agility off. So definitely clutch. I grabbed one of my favorite Gen 7 beasts next in Muck Alola. It's good roll compression, the fact that they gave me a grounded poison and a dark type, which my team lacked up to this point. Muck loves good wish support this gen, obviously because of the super berry nerf. It can't as easily recycle, curse spam and stuff like that. It's going to be running AV most of the time, and having Serena, having Vaporeon for that is super, super clutch, as well as being able to heal Bell off potential burns on it and things like that, as a lot of water types are going to, be thrown off Scalds, and I might be passing into Muck a lot more than I, really wish I would have to, but not too big of a deal. Has elemental punches and knockoff and poison jab with poison touch, which is great, so you can pass poisons. Gluttony is still definitely an option with the super berry. It's just not as good as it was before. I've run Rest Talk, I've run Resto Chesto before. Definitely one of my favorite grounded poisons to run still, and I feel like people super sleep on it and don't use it as much as they used to. Obviously in Gen 7 it was like it wasn't broken, it was just super dope. It was a very good mon in Gen 7, and it had a big fall off this gen, I won't deny that, but I still think it's very good. Next up, I need a normal. I want something at 110 base speed, so roll compressed a little bit, and I kind of bit the bullet on not having a good ghost immunity. Now we have a great ghost resist in Muck. Well, I wanted a ghost immunity at the very least, so Spec Shadow Ball wasn't the most free thing in the world versus me with hazards up. And that's going to be Tauros. Now, I know, and Tauros pretty much dies to Shadow Ball. It's not really a good ghost check. But it does give me 110 speed, and it gives me another potential wall breaker, with this thing getting Sheer Force plus Life Orb, with its insane coverage on the special side, despite that, 40 special attack. If I'm throwing enough Ice Beams and Fire Blast and Thunders and things like that, I might 2-hit KO that normal resist that you have in the back, which could definitely be really, really clutch. or that 4 times ice resist like that Landorus or that Gliscor, I can definitely pack Ice Beam for that and then do a lot of damage. While on the flip side, throwing off Body Slams and things like that to get Sheer Force boosted. We got access to Close Combat and Earthquake for Steel types as well. So again, most of them you just cover in general. Just great. It's got that Gen 1 coverage, which is obviously really solid. I believe it also got Mega Horn this gen, which like doesn't really help it that much, but it's cool at least. And then I wanted to grab a Fairy in the final round, and we ended up grabbing Slurpuff. Slurpuff makes so I don't auto lose to every fighting type ever, because if you look at my team now, I auto lose to every fighting type ever, but having Slurpuff definitely at least mitigates that a little bit. I know Slurpuff gets a lot of shit, it's not the bulkiest thing in the world, but I've run it plenty of times as an Urshifu single strike check. I've run it plenty of times as, you know, X Pokemon 6-0s me, oh no, I gotta bring Fat Slurpuff. It really is like sneaky bulky. I mean, I think it's overall more bulky than Clef, right? I'm gonna look that up so I don't sound like a dumbass. Clefable. Let's see. 95, 73, 90, 82, 86, 75. So it's at least comparable. I think it's a little less bulky. But it's at least comparable. It has a crazy move pool and get us some weird belly drum shenanigans. It forces a ton of prep. It has Sticky Web. Despite my team not really caring about Sticky Web, it has it. So, you know, I might get that one guy to prep for it. But we can throw off like Calm Mind, Cotton Guard sets with like Draining Kiss, Flamethrower. Obviously, Unburden's a great ability. Doubling my speed whenever I lose my items, so I can run belly drum sets, or I could just run Fat Wish tech sets. It's another Wish Passer, and it's another player, which is great, and kind of taking the pressure off of Vapo a little bit. But yeah, that's gonna be the team. It's pretty solid. Again, there's one rocker. Wait, I don't even have my rocker here. I didn't show it. Hold on. The star of the show. Look, it seems like I did this all dramatic on purpose. I drafted Dio Defense. I don't even remember what round I drafted it, but I love this one. This one's so cool. I think it gets so much shit because its seen as pretty passive. Obviously, 70-70 is not very strong, so it can't be taken advantage of, but that 90 base speed tier makes it to where you take advantage of the passive, because my name is Dio Defense and I have Taunt. It has Nightshade and Seismic Toss. Stallbreaker DOD, the truth, man. I think that's such a cool set. It gets access to Calm Mind too. I used Dio's Speed like right before this, and AP Evo the season right before, so maybe that's another movie I could freaking do. But yeah, I used Dio's Speed, and I love Stallbreaker on that. And this Pokemon, spoilers, I run Stallbreaker like damn near every week with this thing. I run really fast Dio, I give it like max HP, its defenses make up for itself, it's 160, 160, and I Nightshade and Seismic Toss and Toxic everything down, and I'm just an absolute nuisance. But it can Calm Mind, like I said, it can Spikes up, it can Rocks up, it can Teleport. It offers a ton of utility. You just have to be careful on the fast Taunters. You really just do, but again, I think the rest of the team can do that, so I'm not super worried. That's our one rocker. Spoilers, I run Rocks on him once, and I never click it. I'm recording this after I recorded all the battles, if you could hear my voice being like, kind of like, you know, being a little lower, because I'm a little scratchy. It is 2:13 in the morning while I'm finishing up recording this. I wanted to make sure I was wearing the same clothes, because that would have annoyed me in editing. But yeah, that's basically going to be the team. We at least showed off the DOD there. And yeah, I will be right back with our week 1 game. I believe it's against Shark.
Alrighty guys, here we are with week 1. We're going up against Shark this week, and he's got a very, very interesting team. I'm sure you see Big Zolt there, Alolan Ninetales, Nidoqueen, Zapdos, Slowbro, and then Rillaboom. Very, very terrifying squad. The team we're rocking out with this week, I believe, for a 3-tacked Roost. Pretty offensive, but pretty defensive. Mega Scizor. We got Subtoxic Arrow, Zygarde. I believe last move was either Protect or Haze. It's a little bit hazy at this point. Then we have a Nasty Plot 3-attack Thundurus, which does absolutely rip him. He does not appreciate switching into a +2 Thundurus at all. I believe we're just Thunderbolt, Sludge Wave, and Psychic. Really, really smashes his team if we can position it correctly. Then we have a bit of a Stallbreaker Dio, where Psychic, Seismic Toss, Taunt, and Recover on this set. And then we have a Boots Court-changing Cinderace, just to keep hazards away from us, as well as potentially stealing his screen if he wants to go for like a Veil Ninetales or something like that. Could definitely be very, very clutch. And then the WinCon this week is going to be a Resto Chesto Curse Muck. I believe we're knockoff Brick Break, I want to say, as our moves. I'm pretty sure, but let's go ahead and jump into it. We can start off with me leading Scizor, as I'm on fast for some reason. Let me pause it. Go back a turn, obviously. So we're going to lead with our Scizor as we see a Zapdos lead, and that's definitely very, very unfortunate. Obviously, having to pivot out here. And take a Fat Toxic on my Zygarde. In hindsight, maybe Muck was the play, but I didn't want to allow that Volt Switch and that Free Switch to something like Nidoqueen, which I don't deal with super well. But this does allow us to get a pretty free Toxic off from the Slowbro, which is very, very nice, obviously. Though I am forced out here into my Muck. I'm not super worried about a burn, obviously, because I'm Resto Chesto, and that can be great. But he does make a good play play and teleporting out, forcing me into my Deoxys as he does get up rocks. This is fine though. I believe I just throw off a Seismic Toss trying to chip down whatever ends up wanting to come in. It's going to be the Rillaboom. And that's definitely very, very solid damage. I'll take 29%, as we do see that we are faster, sort of obviously Grassy Glide and things like that, so we know we can taunt this thing and stop it from Swords Dancing later, which is great. Knockoff does a good chunk to us, but we know it won't kill us a second time, so we're going to be able to recover up this turn, which is great. Ninetales is going to come out. I have a pretty darn free Scizor right here, but you're going to see he's actually going to go for Hypnosis, and not only is he going to go for it, he's going to hit, which is a skill I do not have, so that's definitely very, very unfortunate right here, as I believe I make a double out into Thunderous, expecting the Zapdos, potentially trying to set up on it and put a little bit of offensive pressure, but out comes Big Zolt, and you're going to see we really struggle switching into Bolt Beam on this team, especially Big Zolt here, and I believe this is a Hail Rock, what do you call it, Ninetales, because right here I make the pivot into Zygarde on the obvious Bolt Beak, trying to stall out that last turn of Hail, and then at least force it out with an Arrows. But we see there's still 3 turns, and I don't have any more switch-ins to Blizzard at this point with Scizor asleep, so we are going to just have to sack off Zygarde, unfortunately. This does give me a pretty free switch into Deoxys, but we see Taunt Arctozolt. I was going to go into this thing and potentially try and recover stall out the Hail, and pressure this thing down, get rid of its Bolt Beaks, but no. That's very, very bad. I'm going to make a very questionable play right here, and I don't think this is a very good play at all. I think this just sealed me getting absolutely smashed by this Taunt Arctozolt, which, spoilers, you're going to see that. Don't click off the video yet. I promise, we do good this season. Maybe not week 1. You know, we're shaking off the kinks. We're figuring out the team a little bit. Reason is this is a bad play, because obviously you're going to see Bolt Beak do 62. A lot. That's a ton of damage to big Dio defense here. And realistically, what's my Icicle Spear switching at this point? I have a Scizor that is unmega'd at 48% and dies to Bolt Beak immediately after. My Thunderous obviously just raw dies. My Cinderace definitely dies to Spear into Bolt Beak, if not just Bolt Beak itself, and same thing with Muck. At this point, I have to pick a sack. I can't afford to make an aggressive switch and try and pivot around this last Hail turn, but I make a really, really dumb, overly aggressive play, probably out of tilt, knowing me, as I believe I get us with Psychic right here, and I'm going to try and save my Dio and go into Thunderous. I get saving Dio, but maybe sacking Scizor, sacking something else was the play, as we're just going to sack our only real way of offensively pressuring this team. I think I said GG right there. Yeah, I was like, this is a wrap. We are going to be able to go into our Cinderace here and be able to court change away, which is nice, but even though we get off this U-turn, Teleport's just going to come out, and we're going to be in a tough spot, as Scald's going to come out. I try and make a double, I believe, here, into my Deoxys, expecting this thing to hard out into like Nidoqueen or something like that, which would obviously be great for me, but there's no reason for him not to teleport. He doesn't super need this thing. He still has ways of beating my Cinderace pretty well outside of this, and it's not like Slivers going to die to a knock. It could have also been Colbur. There's a ton of options. I don't think that that's a bad play by me, doubling out, but definitely didn't work out there, unfortunately. You can see the tilt by Mr. Me setting on as I put on the timer right there. The Zapdos is going to come in, it's going to defog. I do get a free switch into Muck though, which is nice. No point in cursing at this point because Nidoqueen is still alive, but I do get a big 43% knockoff onto that thing. And then we're going to make the hard Deoxys play in case Rocks want to go back up to at least try and get that recover off. As we do end up getting it off, we are faster. Sludge Wave is actually only doing 36, which is great. Ninetales comes hard out here, and Owen, it's gonna encore you, man. Switch out into your Cinderace, switch out into your, what do you call it? This thing can't break you, but I end up just, you know, getting encored and then getting taunted. And then in comes Zolt, and that's pretty much it. I don't have anything for this. Realistically, I have to hope Cinderace can live a hit. You're gonna see Big Zolt's gonna blow me ass backwards. I'm gonna die from full after one Hail turn. I don't know if that was a roll, but we definitely died, unfortunately. Deoxys is gonna come out. It's gonna get taunted. I'm just gonna throw off a couple Psychics. It looks like this is a potential 2-hit KO, so maybe we don't get 6-0'd. We take 57 there, and then the Zolt lives on 1. When I say this Zolt set like haunts my nightmares, I don't think I've had much more embarrassing losses than this one, so it's a great way to start off the video and show you how not to play and how to not get put on just Omega tilt, because this was definitely super embarrassing. This is not Life Orb Zolt. This is not like some craziness. This is Taunt Stab Zolt, and it just absolutely put me in the dirt. Very embarrassing week 1 showing by your boy, but like I said, you live and you learn. We'll bounce back, hopefully. But yeah, this definitely wasn't a good showing of the team, and I know it can do a lot better. We're just gonna kind of have to kick it in overdrive, especially because like the differential that this game like gives me is so bad. There's not a worse start to a season than 0-1 -6. So we're kind of gonna be digging ourselves out of a hole for a little while here until we start winning. But I'll be right back with week 2. Alright, week 2 we're going up against Lux. I absolutely love his draft. It's terrifying. He has Drill Sand with Coco Teeny, and that is absolutely terrifying for us. So you see he brought a lot of the heavy hitters in Tapu Koko, Excadrill, Tyranitar, Noivern, Victini, and Tangrowth. This week we're rocking out with an SD Stabs, Scizor with Bullet Punch, U-Turn, Swords Dance, Roost. Really, really solid endgame if we can chip down that Victini. And the good thing about Victini really being his best check to Mega Scizor is the fact that, one, it has to fear knockoff. It does not want to take a Mega Scizor knockoff coming in. And two, even if we can just catch it with U-Turns early parts in the game, that's going to do a chunk. That's not resisted. It's neutral, obviously, because of Victini's Psychic typing. So we'll super take that. We're a Dragon Dance, Toxic, Protect, Arrows, Zygarde. Now, I don't expect Dragon Dance to win. DD would have been great if Tangrowth didn't come, because I don't think Tangrowth is very good versus the rest of my team at all. I understand why it came, obviously it's a great Zygarde check, but I don't think it's very good versus the rest of my team, so it's more so if I saw an opening, if like he brought Jellicent, which he had on his team as his Zygarde check. There was a potential endgame for that. Now, if I can't get rid of Tangrowth, there's definitely a possibility for Zygarde endgame, but it's honestly just a great defensive soft check to a lot of things on this team, whether it be Tar, Drill, Victini, or Coco. Whether or not they have coverage for me, which all of them besides Excadrill do, I can always live one even if I'm not Yachi and I'm leftovers, just because Zygarde's so goddamn bulky, which is great. And then we have a 4 attacks, Heavy Duty Boots, Thunders. I believe we have enough bulk to take like 2 Gleams from Coco, and then the rest in special attack. He doesn't appreciate switching into it either. I believe we're Stabs, Sludge Wave, Focus Blast, or not Stabs, Volt Switch Thunderbolt, which is also very, very solid in this game. I believe we're an Assault Vest Muck this week with Stabs, Shadow Sneak, and Brick Break. If we can catch the Tar or the Drill with Brick Break, it's going to be big damage. Mostly the Tar, I will definitely take a lot of chip on that, because I don't have great switches to it. I believe I'm a Scald, Wish Tech, Heal Bell, Vaporeon to keep the rest of my team healthy, such as the Zygarde, the Scizor, and the, Muck, and potentially Thunders to a smaller extent. And then we also have another Stall Breaker Deoxys. I believe we're Recover, Psychic, Focus Blast, and Taunt. Again, really solid, especially if you can catch that Drill or the Tar trying to get in offensively on us, thinking we're pretty passive. Focus Blast is not going to kill either of them by any stretch of the imagination, but it will potentially 2-hit KO Tar depending on the set. And it'll do a lot to both of them, which is great. And I think we actually 2-hit KO like non-bulky Drills as well, which is great. But let's go ahead and jump into this one. I believe I'm hyper fast, let's slow it down. He's going to lead off with Tyranitar, and I'm going to lead off with Thundurus. I am just going to Volt Switch out. Maybe I should have scouted for Scarf, but I didn't think Scarf was a great bring in this game, at the very least. So we're going to Volt out as the Tangrowth is going to come in, which is great. This allows me Scizor, this allows me my Mega, and allows me a big U-turn. He makes a good play and goes Noivern, obviously not wanting to take a bunch of chip on that Teeny, which definitely makes a lot of sense, because Swords Dance Scizor looks very, very solid in the end game. But this is going to allow me a little bit more momentum into my Thunders. He's going to U-turn himself, but I'm going to get that big Volt off. As Coco comes in, now I wish maybe I could have like Sludge Wave there, especially predicting like Tangrowth again, but it's all good. We still got a big chunk off considering that's resisted, and Muck is going to come out. We're going to take a lot from that Volt Switch right there, but we're going to get a free knockoff, as we're not only going to knock off the Choice Band off the Tyranitar, which is clutch because didn't have Bantar switch-ins. We're also going to poison it, which is going to be great in wearing this thing down. As Noivern's going to come back in, it's going to frisk my Assault Vest as I go into Vapo. And again, this is fine. I'm just going to throw off a Wish. If he's Taunt, so be it. I can pivot out and deal with it in other ways, which is obviously great. Vapo's going to come out. I'm going to throw off a Wish as he makes a double into Victini, expecting some other pivot on the Noivern. Maybe it's potentially Thundurus. Maybe he was expecting... yeah, no, Scizor. Scizor is definitely what he's expecting. But I know I didn't die to like an Earthquake there from Tangrowth. It's just not the strongest thing in the world. And I get my Muck back up to full, which is so clutch. And this gives me another very, very free hit, which I'll for sure take. I don't even think I really need to predict. I can just knock off if Tar wants to come in. It's poison at this point. I'm not super worried. We're going to be able to knock off, and again, poison. So 2 for 2 on the poison touches this game. Knock off the boots off that Noivern, and I believe at this point, I just start spamming Poison Jab. If he wants to Draco, it'll bounce. If he wants to Super Fang me, I can potentially Wish it up later. On the Coco coming in, or potentially the Tangrowth coming in, so there are both plentiful options, especially because like those mons are forced in by my Vaporeon. They're his best ways of breaking through it, you know, obviously. So I'm just gonna stay in and start spamming some poison jabs. I can, you know, bait a crit. I can bait him attacking me, as I believe it kind of goes on for a little bit longer at this point. He's gonna try and get as humanly healthy as possible. I also haven't revealed Sneak at this point, so if I can get him into range of Sneak, I can potentially surprise KO him with that, which is again very, very clutch. At this point, he won't be KO'd. No, I think it's his turn. He won't be KO'd by Poison Jab
into like poison jab into poison, so I believe he goes for a super fang here. He's actually gonna miss, which does suck. Definitely disadvantageous for Lux there, but it's gonna be able to give me the opportunity to throw off a Shadow Sneak, pick off this thing, and be in a solid spot. Drill's gonna come out. I'm gonna make the pivot into Dio defense, and I'm gonna take a ridiculous amount from this Earthquake. I believe maybe I wasn't calculating at the time, maybe I looked at the calc wrong. In my head I was like, that's banded, like for sure, hella banded, no way it's not banded. Because sand wasn't up, so it wasn't sand force. It might have just been like adamant soft sand, but that did a ridiculous amount of damage to my Vapo there, or my Deoxys there, which is pretty physically defensive, or at least it's a Deoxys defense, so I should have taken 2 of those non-boosting item at the very least. So I was definitely very surprised to see how much that did. I did make the pivot out into Thunders, which is very nice. I think I throw off a Focus Blast this turn. We are going to hit the Tangrowth. I believe that is Super Assault Vest, which is definitely unfortunate that we get the Spit F drop there, because I don't think Sludge Wave would have been able to kill otherwise, but we're able to throw off a pretty free one right there as the T-Tar ends up coming out. Execute Drill is going to come out, and I throw off a Volt Switch. I didn't want to risk not hitting that that Focus Blast, and I felt like I could pivot out into Vaporeon pretty easily on that thing because it didn't have a band anymore, and I was like max Fizz Def, and I didn't want to risk it. Now, I wish I did risk it because out came the Drill, and that was really unfortunate because I don't have a switch in this thing. I'm kind of going to have to pick a sack here or two because we are going to go hard Vaporeon. He's going to Rock Slide, which is definitely solid. I believe I throw up a Wish here and go a little bit greedy as Lux calls me and goes for an Earthquake. Does 48 freaking %, and then makes a very solid play this next turn, throws off an SD. So this might be part of the reason... Part of the reason I might have made that play is because I did maybe think it was banded. I vaguely remember thinking that was banded at the time, but he wasn't. I think it might have been Adamant Soft Sand or something like that. That's the only thing that really makes sense to me. But Vaporeon's going to go down, but we at least successfully stall the sand turns, which is very, very solid. Zygarde's going to come out. I'm going to go for a Toxic on this Tangrowth as he makes a pivot into Victini. Definitely unfortunate. I'm going to go for a Protect here as he goes for a U-turn. Which makes sense because I really don't think he wants to let this thing take 1,000 arrows. I just don't think it's in his best interest. I really don't. And realistically, maybe I shouldn't have made a prediction on the Toxic into Tangrowth this next turn, because I can realistically stay in and Toxic at the next turn. Maybe a little bit less so because I don't have my Cleric and Vaporeon anymore, and I definitely don't want my Zygarde Toxic or knocked off, really. But yeah, I am going to go for a Toxic next turn, expecting him to not want to take that 1,000 arrows chip on his Victini, because that really opens up my Mega Scizor endgame. As soon as that Drill takes some chip or goes down, it just wins the game, like outright. So definitely thought he would switch here, but not the biggest deal in the world. This Glaciate definitely doesn't kill me in any sense of the word, especially because I know he's not Specs or anything like that, because he just clicked U-turn. So I'm going to be able to get off a Toxic. And then I'm going to protect this next turn. Now, it would have been great of me to call this U-turn right here and get off a big Toxic on the Tangrowth, but at the very least, I can get off some Rocky Helmet chip on this Victini if it wants to make that play, which it does end up making that play as he goes hard into the T-Tar right here. I do end up living that U-turn, which is also very solid, and I can throw off a big Focus Blast here, and this would be great chip on the Excadrill, but we're going to miss it, unfortunately. That would have been great chip for potentially a Mega Scizor endgame. So that's definitely very, very unfortunate. We're going to have to kind of make some plays right here. We're going to go into Zygarde, and maybe it's a bad call on my end. I thought he might turn a Swords Dance on my Protect that I showed, and I don't know if that was a roll or not, but regardless, Zygarde's going to go down. It wasn't the most useful at this point. It was pretty much in range of everything it was going to take a hit from besides Tar, which is at 37% slower than everything on my team, minus my Muck. That can definitely take it out as well. So right here, I'm going to go into Mega Scizor. I believe I just go for a U-turn. Didn't want to make the hard Thunderous play in case he overplayed a little bit and went for that Rock Slide. As we do go into Thunderous right here, and I believe I go for a Focus Blast, and I believe I miss again. However, this one's actually okay for me because this stalls one extra turn of Sand because he has to stay in here. I am going to be able to Thunderbolt. It is enough to take it out after the poison. So I'm not complaining about that one. That one was pretty clutch, I won't lie. We're going to have to make a series of pivot plays right here. Muck's going to come out. It's going to take 32 from a Rock Slide, which is definitely unfortunate. Going to make the play back out into Thunderous right here to avoid that Earthquake. And then we're going to go right back out into Muck, and he's going to hit me with a big Rock Slide. Now, Sand ends, and I feel comfortable sacking off my Muck. It's at 21%. right? It's at 21%. There is no more sand. My Mega Scizor definitely loses this thing, but my Thunders can at least outspeed it and potentially hit it with a Focus Blast, which is nice, and, you know, be in a good spot. So I'm fine with sacking off Muck. I think it's kind of served its purpose at this point. I went for a Brick Break to, you know, prevent any kind of setup or anything like that, or just, you know, not getting anything out of the turn by going for a Shadow Sneak and then him Swords Dancing and then just me being in a worse spot. I don't know, because he can potentially do Rapid Spin and kill me if he has that and then be faster than my Thunders and win the game. So figured Brick Break was just my best play because I believe that and the Sneak does kill this thing. As he actually misses a Rock Slide. Now that is unfortunate, but I think that was a pretty big overplay. Didn't think he needed to make that play. Especially because there's no way I go Hard Thunderous there. I think that's a really, really bad choke and potential, like, you know, just game losing play. If I make that play hard into it, I lose it. Drill wins on the spot. So I really am just not in a position to make that play. But we're going to be able to do that and then knock it out with a crit Shadow Sneak. I don't know if the crit mattered, but, you know, it's definitely very nice. I believe I just go for a Poison Jab here. We unfortunately don't live the Dazzling Gleam. However, this does give me my Scizor opportunity, and this turn I'm going to go for a U-turn. Now I know you might think, like, why didn't you roost and get healthy? Reason is, if I let this Victini in for free, the game's over. My Thunders is in range of this Victini. Guaranteed. It dies 150% of the time. There's no way it lives. And my way of winning this game is not only catching this Victini, getting this free switch into my Thunders, and then I need to Volt Switch. If I Volt Switch and I either knock out this thing, or I bait in that Tangrowth, I get my Swords Dance opportunity up with Scizor. I actually don't die to a Tapu Koko Thunderbolt from this range. And if it's Specs, I can always, you know, scout that with Thunders because I don't need it at this point in the game. My win con is Scizor. I just can't Roost, lose momentum, let him throw off a fire move, and then lose the game, basically. So I'm going to make the U-turn play, and you see that does 40%, which is absolutely amazing. We're going to get out into Thundurus, and this gives me a very free Volt Switch, which is great. And out comes the Tangrowth because I think he realizes, like, uh-oh, I gotta keep teaming around. It's definitely out of range of a Bullet Punch at this point, so I am gonna get in my Scizor right here. I get it in for free, I get that Swords Dance off. We're pretty offensive, so the Koko is in range, and that means that the Teeny's in range as well. We're gonna be able to knock it out with a +2 Bullet Punch, and then out comes Tangrowth, and after setting up, like, one more Swords Dance, I want to make sure I O-code this thing, just in case shenanigans occurred, or, you know, something like that, or, like, he Sleep Powdered me as I, like, U-turn. I don't know. Regardless, doesn't really matter. We're going to be able to Swords Dance up one more time, then we Roost, and then we U-turn, and we knock out the Tangrowth, and we pull one out of our ass, honestly. That mid-game went very, very poorly, but I think we played really, really well in that end game to bring it back and position the Scizor. Had to make a pretty aggressive call on the U-turn, make sure we didn't play passively and Roost and things like that. So I'll for sure take the Scizor dub. That was a very, very scary game, but especially after getting 6-0 body bagged week 1 by Taunt Arctozolt, this is a very much so needed win and hopefully a trend upwards, you know, going forward. Alright, week 3, we're going up against Mia, hopefully keeping the ball rolling after the week 2 dub. Mia's got a pretty scary team in the Urshifu Single Strike, Spectre, which really sucks, but, you know, it's not the worst here, unfortunately. I hate to admit it, but it's not the worst here. My normal type is Tauros. It can kind of muscle through Muk, so we have to be very careful. We have a Seismitoad, Mega Charizard X, a Corviknight, and then an Illumise, which is very annoying with its Prankster and, you know, all those shenanigans. I believe it gets Encore. I believe it gets Encore, so we have to be careful. I don't know. I don't remember. Yeah, it definitely gets Encore, but this team, we're rocking out with a pretty interesting squad. I actually really like the build this week. We're rocking out with a Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, Grass Knot, Defog. Thundurus is going to be great for pivoting into things like Corvi. Now, if I was to tell you why I was Defog, I think there are some spikes, shenanigans, or maybe webs, something like that I didn't like dealing with. Doesn't really come into play this match. As you see, there's only one Hazard Setter, and it's Seismitoad. My team doesn't care about Rock Salt too much, to be completely honest, so not too bad. Then we have our first of 3 Rocky Helmet users in Slurpuff. We're Draining Kiss, Wish, Flamethrower, and what's the last move? Sorry, you're gonna see, you know, barely anything. Yawn, which is definitely very, very solid. It's a great Urshifu check, in all honesty. I think people sleep on Slurpuff. It's not that bad of a mon. It gets a lot of shit when it shouldn't really get it. Then we're a Rest Talk, what do you call it, Muck, with Crunch, Fire Punch, Rush, Sleep Talk. Definitely very solid, especially checking that Spectre over Rest so that we don't get willowed and, you know, as abused and bullied and chipped down, and it keeps us healthy throughout the course of a game. Crunch plus Fire Punch is actually pretty annoying for our opponent to switch into. Obviously, Corvi still pretty much walls us with the Fire Punch, but we could bait a Burn. We could bait some defense drops with our crunches and things like that, and then potentially deal with it like that. We're not going to get as easily pressure stalled with Sleep Talk. No, we definitely can, obviously. Then we have a Choice Band Zygarde. If you look at my opponent's team, there's not a ground resist on it that is not named Illumise, and that's why I brought it. That might be why Illumise is here, to stop potential like setup Zygardes and things like that. I believe I'm 1,000 Arrows, Outrage, Extreme Speed, and Glare on this particular set. And then we have our second of our 3 Rocky Helmet users in our Deoxys. Very, very interesting set. I'm actually Nasty Plot this week. Nasty Plot over Calm Mind because at +2, and with our investment, I think it was like 128 modest. Sorry, you're not gonna... 124 modest. We actually do 2-hit KO Corviknight. Maybe a little bit extra, but I want to try something different. I think I brought Stallbreaker the first 2 weeks, and I didn't think that Nasty Plot was super bad. Nothing really threatens Oko potential besides like Band Urshifu on this team, or maybe like Spectrier. But everything else does kind of struggle with it, and with like Rocky Helmet plus like, you know, Zard potentially going for Flare Blast, and then we throw off +2 Psychic, you know, it's less liable to bully us for being passive, which is nice. And then we have a Scald, Haze, Wish, Protect, Vaporeon. Main pivot into Zard, at least to the point where I can haze it and, you know, stop it from, you know, Swords Dancing or Dragon Dancing on everything on my team, which is really, really clutch. Especially Dragon Dance. Swords Dance, if it ends up SDing and like Thunder Punching and taking out my Vapo, not the biggest deal in the world, because then I have things to potentially revenge. As long as I can keep it low, I can E-Speed with Zygarde, I can really, yeah, I guess E-Speed it with Zygarde, or try and pick it off with like Air, with like Helmet Chip from either Slurpuff or our Deoxys, which is great. Let's go ahead and jump into this one, though. I am going to lead off with my Thundurus, as Mia leads off with Seismitoad. I'm just going to throw off a Grass Knot. I don't think there's any switch-ins to this Pokemon, because Zard has not Mega'd yet. So realistically, Electric Move kind of bullies everything else on this team. So I don't expect a great pivot out. It would be a very aggressive play to go hard Zard, and I still have sufficient checks to it in the back. So I just go for a Grass Knot, expecting this to maybe be Rindo. It could knock me off, it could Ice Punch me, it could get up rocks, anything like that. But you're going to see it actually just raw dies. It was Rocky Helmet Toad, so we're going to take a little bit of chip because Grass Knot does make contact, but not the biggest deal. Out comes the Spectre. We are going to get burned by Wisp, which is a little bit unfortunate, as it nasty blots in my face. I'm like, wait a minute. 36, still decent chip. We get the Poison Touch, but then it's Weakness Policy, and in my head I'm like, yo, is this Mudshot? Do I lose if this is Mudshot? It's Hex. I believe Hex is actually potentially stronger. I think it was actually pretty bulky Spectre too, because that might have been a roll to knock us out if it was like Max Modest or something scary like that. But thank God we live, because if this didn't live or we got crit, the game was over. We actually got absolutely swept. 5-0. We lost the game. It was over. No Scarfers, no priority to pick this thing off. It was a wrap. But thankfully we live, and in conjunction with us getting the crunch there, it goes down to Toxic. It said it was at 13%, but it was probably at 12. Just Showdown's a little weird sometimes. So I will definitely take it. Muck has done its job. It is not here to check anything else. And we went from a position of where like, uh-oh, do I lose, to a, oh shit, I might win. Let's go. Which is definitely very solid. Urshifu's going to come out next. I'm going to save Muck as a sack. There's no reason for me to just sack it off right there. Wicked Bull is going to come out. We're going to see that it is Life Orb, so we're just going to take Rocky Helmet plus Life Orb. That's good to know for sure, too. As I just go for a Draining Kiss, no reason to Wish Protect up in case it ends up going for like an Iron Head or something like that, catching me being aggressive. I'm just going to Draining Kiss as this Illumise comes in. It's going to Encore, so it does have Encore. It's going to Encore me into Draining Kiss, but I'm fine with that. I'm going to pivot Vaporeon just because it deals with a potential double into Corviknight or the Zard to try and bully me and set up on me, and obviously I'm back at full pretty much, so I still check Urshifu very, very well. As it actually ends up going for U-turn, which honestly isn't that bad for me either, because there's not really great counterplay to Vaporeon at this point, to be completely honest, and it just chips this thing down to where it's closer and closer to being in range of Zygarde, which I will definitely take, which, you know, obviously they can like prankster roost on me if they get a free switch, but if they don't, I'm still in a very good spot. So this turn I like to sack off Muck just because it's low. This is why I saved it, so I can have a free pivot later on in the game. It's going to take Life Orb Chip, so thank you, Muck, for your service. Iron Head's going to come out, only 52%, and then we're just going to be able to yawn this thing. Unfortunately, it could knock me out here, but I am just going to throw off a Draining Kiss because I don't see a reason not to. If they stay in, they go to sleep, and that gives me a pretty advantageous spot. As I am going to go for a Flamethrower, as this Illumise goes for a Roost. It encores me into Flamethrower, which is unfortunate, but we're able to take out the Illumise, which is definitely very solid. Zard's going to come in. It's going to actually Belly Drum in my face, and this is definitely very, very scary, but I looked at the calcs, and anything minus a Dragon Claw, I did live. So I am just going to go for a haze here to ensure that this thing can't, like, scale. I guess it could have scale shot up and beat me. So if this was scale shot, it for sure could have won the game. I don't know. That was actually pretty tough. I kind of forgot about scale shot at that point. But obviously scale shot, there was the possibility of going into Slurpuff, maybe, potentially things like that, which would have been unfortunate. But realistically, my best way of beating this thing is getting it down to the Zygarde range and hitting with an extreme speed. And I guess if it does scale shot right there, it's at 50%, then it takes the minus defense on Banned Zygarde. That plus Rocky Helmet on something else would potentially take it out. And I could go into my Slurpuff and force that Roost and make it, yawn it and put it to sleep. Or I could force it to take itself out to the Rocky Helmet if Extreme Speed didn't just kill. So I guess there was outs because we definitely didn't die to a Flame Charge. And then if this thing, just Dragon Clawed, then, again, not the worst spot in the world either. So definitely solid. We are just going to go for a haste, though, as the Zard does reveal Roost. So that's very, very clutch for sure. I believe this turn I just Scald, because if it Belly Drums again, now it's in range of Extreme Speed. So I just have to ensure that it's in range of Extreme Speed. I haze on the in-between turns of me Scalding, as I believe it is just going to Roost right here. This is fine. This thing can't beat me. It's going to run out of moves eventually. It's not going to be able to Belly Drum up on me at the very least. I will ensure that that doesn't happen, and I know my Zygarde lives 1,000 arrows from full. Just guaranteed. I believe I Wish right here. Corviknight's going to come out just to go for a U-turn, just for me to Scald and knock out this Urshifu, which I will definitely take. Corvi doesn't want to stay on me either, obviously. Between Helmet plus me burning it, I'll be in a pretty good spot. As the Zard is going to come out right here, it's going to Roost up again. It can't Belly Drum. It can't really attack me or anything like that. As me, it does unfortunately get a little bit upset with Vaporeon there. I believe I just start spamming it, and because if they go for that Belly Drum, they're just going to be too low to potentially do anything. So I don't have a reason to not click Scald. And if I run out of Scalds, I can click Haze. It's really not that big of a deal. As Corviknight's going to come out here, I don't get the burn this first turn, unfortunately, as I believe it's going to Roost up as I go for just another Scald, trying to bait a burn on this thing. I finally do get it, which I will take. And then I feel comfortable pivoting out into my Thundurus. I believe I Wish one more time. Just in case something went awry or anything like that. But I go into Thundurus, it's going to defog. It's trying to stall me out of my PP so that the Zard can potentially come in. But this is going to put me in a position where I can definitely win, because I'm just going to Volt Switch. If this thing Roosts, whatever, I'll go back out into Thundurus and I'll do the same thing. I just don't want to be in with my Thundurus while this thing comes in. But it actually U-turns trying to get into the Zard, which is fine. It's going to Belly Drum here, and then I'm just going to be able to Scald, knock out the Zard, and Vaporeon put in the utmost. None of our offense came in. I'm really bummed that Nasty Plot DOD didn't get to do anything. Banned Zygarde didn't get to do much. That was always in the back as a big threat. Thundy did some work. Honestly, our four more defensive members. I guess Thundy isn't defensive in this game, but the other ones definitely were. They put in a ton of work, which is great. And I've never had Vaporeon pop off like that. I usually see it being pretty passive and getting taken advantage by the things that are supposed to check setup-wise. But at least in this instance, it wasn't. So I'll definitely take it. But yeah, that's week 3. Let's jump into week 4. Alright, week 4 hits. We're on a bit of a... We're starting to feel it a little bit at the very least with our team here. We're going up against KHG this week. Pretty fun squad that we brought this week. We'll go over his team first, though. He has Mega Dia, which is obviously a terrifying mon. 1 Mystical Fire away from kind of just beating our entire team if they catch Scizor on the right turn. And they obviously have a great Scizor matchup in things like Celesteela and the Rotom Heat. They also have Urshifu Rapid Strike, they have Swampert, and they have Big Drampa, which actually I don't switch into Drampa super well. Its stabs are just like Dragon move plus Fire move. Kind of do me dirty, so we have to be a little bit careful about that. We can go over the team that I brought a little bit here. I believe I am a Choice Band Zygarde this week. Again, there is no Arrows Resist on my opponent's team. Now, maybe a setup set could have done better, but I like the immediate power of Ban, especially when things like Swampert are sitting in the wayside. I don't really see myself setting up very often. I want to force this thing in, getting in on a U-turn, on like with my Cinderace on the Rotom, and then throw off a Banded Arrows and 2-hit KO something, or 3-hit KO the Swampert. It's really only a one-time switch, and even if it's Fist Death hurt, which is great. Other than that, we can just kind of click arrows. We have Outrage, Extreme Speed, and then maybe Claire's our last move. I totally forget the last move, to be completely honest. We have a 3 attacks Roost Scizor. It is pretty Spadef. It is here to checkmate Diancie, and that is it. There's absolutely nothing else it does. We're 4 attacks Boots Thundurus as per usual. I believe we're Stall Breaker Dio once again. I'm gonna double check. Yeah, we're Stall Breaker, Rocky Helmet with Seismic Toss, Psychic, Taunt, and Recover. Then we are a 4 attacks Life Orb Tauros, which I'm very excited about. We're Body Slam, Fire Blast, Iron Head, and Close Combat. If you look at his team and you look at this Tauros, it demolishes him. It 2-hit KOs just about everything minus a Selly. Fire Blast still going to do a chunk for sure, but depending on his spread, he could definitely avoid a 2-hit KO pretty easy, especially with leftovers, protect, and leech seed and all that stuff. But if we can force in the Selly a little bit earlier, which we do have a pretty solid Selly matchup with the things we end up happening right here, we'll be in a pretty good spot. I will not lie. I will definitely take our odds there with Big Tauros. I think it's a great wall breaker in this game. And then I believe we have like a Super Fang U-turn Pyro Ball Ironhead. Heavy Duty Boot Cinderace. Ironhead's a good way of revenging a non-rock polished or like Diamond Storm boosted up Deancey. He doesn't appreciate switching into it a bunch outside of Pert, which I will definitely always take chip on for things like Zygarde and Tauros in the back, as well as the Rotom Heat, which is another one I like getting U-turns on into my Zygarde, and then throwing off Banded Arrows, which is kind of my main target to abuse with here with Zygarde. So I'll definitely take it. Let's go ahead and jump into it. I believe he leads off with Swampert, as I am going to lead Thundy. I go for a Grass Knot turn 1. Could have been over-aggressive and gone for a Volt Switch, but even if he was Rindo, I would have taken that chip any day of the week, and I wouldn't have gotten that chip otherwise if I didn't make that play. So I am going to be able to Volt out the next turn. Reason I went into Deoxys over my Zygarde is obviously because Wisp is definitely a possibility. He knows that I wall the ever-living shit out of him, so not wanting to let me in for free is definitely an understandable thing. Toxic wouldn't have been the biggest deal in the world, but Will-O-Wisp definitely was, and I'm glad I made the Dio pivot, which is great. I actually am going to pivot right out into Zygarde though, because I don't think he's going to want to double defog. I think he's going to try and Volt out and try and take advantage of this thing. Plus, I don't want to take any unnecessary chip on Dio. It's my only thing stopping me from losing to Urshifu Rapid Strike. So you have to be very careful about that, obviously. So out comes Zygarde, which is going to be great because he does end up going for a Volt Switch, and this pretty much awards us a KO. Or at least some, scouting on this Swampert and what it has. So it's going to be leftovers. We're going to see that we do about 37. I'm going to stand and go for an arrows again. Reason being, I don't die at anything this does. And it catches him being aggressive, going for rocks, going for flip turn. I don't want to lose momentum, and I don't need health on Zygarde, really. It's here to click 1,000 arrows, and that's it. It's here to punch a hole so the rest of my team can, clean up later on. So he is going to actually get up rocks right here. As you're going to see, he's going to get back up to 37, which is in range of our arrows. So we use Zygarde to take out that Swampert with no damage to us. We're going to go hard Deoxys defense on this Urshifu right here in case he wants to like bulk up or do any shenanigans. As it does end up doing so, this is very scary, but you're gonna see we do end up living this Surging Strikes, getting a ton off with our Rocky Helmet because it wasn't pads, and then we're able to get off a big Psychic. Now, provided that thing wasn't Scarf, we always have Thundy to revenge it. We definitely didn't die to a +1 Aqua Jet, so I'll definitely take it. Dio served its purpose at this point though. It checked the Urshifu, it killed it. We're gonna sack it off to the Dia in order to get in our Scizor. I am gonna go for the Bullet Punch. I don't feel the need to be super aggressive and call that and go for the U-turn, because if I get called on it, I'm in a really bad position against that Dia with everything else on my team. I could realistically lose to it. So I go into my Thunders right here, as I believe it goes for a Volt Switch. So he's going to stay in right here, which I'll definitely take, and it's going to double leech as we Volt Switch out. But honestly, that's fine. I'm going to pivot right back out into Thundy just because I feel like it's my safest play. As Rotom ends up coming out, I don't really need too much health on this now that Thundy is chipped down, so I am just going to go for a Focus Blast and chip this thing right down. I go for a Volt Switch this next turn. Keeping this for the Selly is definitely very nice, and at this point, this thing is low and in range of Cinderace guaranteed, so I can go in and just pick it off with a Pyro Ball and be in a good spot. Nothing really wants to take a hit from this thing, especially because he doesn't know if I'm High Jump Kick or not, and he should know that I probably have Iron Head, but we're going to be able to Volt out, Chew Wisp, but we unfortunately missed Pyro Ball, and this is going to allow him to Pain Split up, which is definitely very annoying. If anything, it just kind of costs us a little diff potentially, but we are going to be able to Super Fang it as it Volt switches out. I would like to keep it low at the very least, as Dramp is going to come out. Unfortunately, we're not Chopple, or we're not High Jump Kick, so we're going to Super Fang it, chip it down, but this should set up a Tauros sweep, in all honesty, because we could just off a big close combat, it blows away the Drampa, which I'll definitely take, and it kind of just nukes everything else on the team. As Deancey's going to come out, we're actually going to win a speed tie. I'm not going to let that thing set up a rock polish and beat me. I'm not going to let it set up a sub and beat me and switch out and choke or anything like that, and I don't have to switch into it anyway, so unfortunately, let me go back a little bit because I'm kind of talking about the Deancey still. We are going to win that speed tag against the Deancey, and we are going to be able to knock it out. So a little bit of luck on our end, which I'll definitely take. I didn't think I needed Tauros to win the game. It was just nice to have to win the game, if that makes any sense. But out comes Selly. I'm going to go for a Fire Blast because it knocks it out, but unfortunately we are going to miss. Air Slash is going to crit, which I think it knocked us out anyways because I think we're -2. Unfortunate, but we can just go into Thunders and Volt Switch, and then we get into Zygarde, and we can throw off a big Choice Band boosted Outrage, and pick up the dub here. So we lost a little bit of diff that game, but really not that big of a deal. I'm here to get W's. I'm not here to worry about diff, especially after the start of the season, and being able to string together 3 wins is a little bit more important than winning like big. So I'm not super upset about it for sure. And I'll definitely take picking off with Zygarde adding to the all-time kill leaders. Kill total at the very... Actually, no, I think Cinderace is higher, which is weird because we're not doing very well with Cinderace this season. But I'll take the 3-0 dub nonetheless. I'm kind of rambling a little bit. And yeah, I'll see you guys with week 5. Alright, we're riding high. 3-game win streak going into our game against Odin in week 5. I believe he's having a great season. Another crazy team, and honestly, a lot of people drafted really well in this league. We have a Latios, a Zeraora, a Landorus, a Milotic, a Heatran, and a Mienshao. Terrifying 6. There's not a single mediocre Pokemon on that team. Meanwhile, we have a Serena on our team and a Tauros. So we'll see how it goes. But we're rocking out with a Sub DD Coil Arrows Zygarde. It does very well in this matchup. If we can chip down the Milo, it really does have a great potential of winning. I mean, obviously we need a little bit more chip on some other things as well, like a defensive Landorus, or potentially like Latios as well. We have to be careful about Scarf. Latios is definitely a possibility as well, so it's something to keep in mind. Then we have an AV Pretty Spadef Muck to take on said Latios, so we don't auto-lose to it. We have a Scald, I believe, Wish Tech, Heal Bell, Vaporeon, which is great. And then a pretty physically defensive Serena, because it's our only way of not just auto-losing to Landorus. I keep doing this thing where I draft Serena as my ground resist, and I'm like, Serena doesn't resist ground, it sucks. So we're kind of at that point again, where I once again play Landorus. I'm like, damn, Serena is a liability, in fact, but I can't just like lose to the move Earthquake, so we have to bring it. Then we're rocking out with a Choice Scarf Tauros. It checks, it soft checks a lot on this team, since I can revenge a lot. I can revenge a Scarf Heatran. I can potentially revenge a -1 like Scarf Mienshao. I can revenge a weakened Zeraora with an Earthquake. Plenty of things like that, which is great. And then we have like a Stall Breaker, Nightshade, Toxic, Taunt, Recover, Deoxys, which does very solid in this matchup. It's actually incredibly tough for him to break that Pokemon, so I'll definitely take it. We're going to lead off with our Deoxys, as I'm accidentally on Hyper Fast as I was watching the game to remember what happened. But we're going to lead off with our Deoxys as the Landorus leads off. We're going to see that its Intimidate pops before us. I believe kind of tipping us off that this thing is indeed Choice Scarf. As turn 1, I am just going to throw off a Toxic. Maybe a Recover was a little bit better. No, it wasn't a better play, because if that's like set up Landorus, it's just a very stupid play. But this is going to allow him to get in his Heatran and scouting for Scarf. I am going to go into my Vaporeon, as turns are moving a little fast as I'm talking about Toxic being a better play. But regardless, Stealth Rocket going to go up. I have to scout for Scarf. There's no reason for me to just let my Dio die. It's still very good, and I still can recover on other things. Even if it's to get Toxic, I can still heal all this off, which is great. I do go into my Vaporeon. I do throw off a big Wish and pass it right out into my Serena. Now, I don't believe I'm actually Rapid Spin on the Serena, which would have been phenomenal, but not too big of a deal, because we can at the very least grab some momentum with U-Turn, and plus it was a rocker that beat my spinner, so it's not like I'm gaining much momentum in that sense. But we do get a switch into our Zygarde. I am going to throw off 1,000 arrows just to scout and see if it's responsive, if it's Milo or if it's Landorus. It does turn out to be Milo. We get a decent chunk off. We see that it's also not Flame Orb, something very solid to keep in mind. I believe it's not. It hasn't shown leftovers either, so again, just great to keep in mind. We're going to throw off a Wish with our Vapo. We're just basically using this thing as a pivot, at least right now. We can Heal Bell off in this thing's face. We have to be careful about the amount of them we have, but, definitely still okay. As we are going to see the Latios come in, and then Odin's going to make a pretty sick, nasty double into the Swords Dance Mienshao. And I don't have a switch in this, so I was like, I live Scarf Close Combat. I thought Poison Jab being a good spot. No, he says it was a Swords Dance, and I'm like, oh shit. That's not good. I Poison Jab, I do a good 60%, and then I go into Serena just basically to sack it off, see what this thing is. It high jump kicks, pretty much tipping me off that it's likely Reckless too, because I was pretty darn physically defensive, so that's definitely very terrifying. I go into my Tauros with shut out speed. I go for a Body Slam. In hindsight, maybe Earthquake was better, but I wanted to chip down that Milo extra if it ends up coming in. Though, again, he doesn't know that I'm Scarf, so I think that Earthquake was just my better play, because he doesn't know that I'm Scarf, and if I'm Life Orb, I 2-hit KO him on the switch in, especially if I have Wild Charge, which I definitely do. So definitely probably should have Earthquake there, in my mind, but no, it's not too big of a deal. I have a good pivot into this in Vaporeon. I am taking rocks, and I get Wisp right here, so lots of annoying shenanigans kind of occurring, but again, not the biggest deal in the world. It could have also been potentially Shuka as well, so that's something else to keep in mind. And right here, I believe what happens, I am going to make the switch out to my Vaporeon as he throws off a Wisp, kind of chipping me down. I don't really necessarily want to waste my heal bells on like a burn at this point in the game. So he's going to make the switch out into Zero Aura on me, as I'm going to make the pivot into Deoxys Defense. I believe I did this expecting the Milo to potentially come in and, you know, use me as a pivot, kind of just be annoying, maybe get off of recover. But I guess since I'm burned, it's not like it can do much to me. As unfortunately Zera comes in, and I'm thinking like, oh man, I don't want to let my Zygarde get knocked. That's really bad. My Zera's really low. It's going to be hard to position a recover, so I'm just going to stay in recover, but he actually makes a double again, this time out into Latios, which is understandable. He was probably expecting the Zygarde to come in, but I at least get off my recover, and here I can go into Muck, which is great. This thing is going to Calm Mind, which means it's for sure Calm Mind, Life Orb, Draco. It's usually how these mons push past Muck, but thankfully, Muck doesn't care. He took 62% from that, which is pretty nuts, and then is able to raw KO the Latios with a knockoff. So Muck served its purpose at this point. I believe I go for sure for a Shadow Snake to try and bait a poison here, which would have been amazing. Unfortunately, we don't get it. I knew this thing was Scarf though, so it's not like I had to worry about it setting up in my face. As right here, he goes into Zera Aura, and then, you know, on that double down, I get into my Zygarde, which is great, allowing me to Dragon Dance this turn. Though in hindsight, not the best play because I don't really deal with this Pokemon great. I guess I force an Ice Beam, which is nice, or I guess I recover. It's probably not Toxicing me on that turn in case I am sub, but I am able to finally get a Toxic off on this Milotic, which is so big for my endgame. While it's looking bleak, it's definitely possible, especially because this thing Toxic me, and I can very, very easily get off a big recovery. He makes a switch into Heatran there, which is definitely interesting. I don't necessarily know why. Maybe it's because he thought the Dio would stay in, but we do get a big heal bell off here, which is great. I'm gonna make the hard Taurus play, and this might sound a little dumb, but if this thing's bulk up, or even potentially, yeah, if it's bulk up, not really Calm Mind, I'm not super worried about Calm Mind, but if it's bulk up, it can really do a lot of damage to me and kind of bully my team, take down my Zygarde to a point where I can't really win, and it is my win con. As well as I live in Plasma Fist, I believe, from here. I don't know, I might not have looked at Plasmas, but I do know for a fact that it was also my least useful member, and it would give me a free switch to my Zygarde otherwise, so I am going to go into Tauros, and another thing I can do is I can throw out this Scarf Earthquake, right? And this Scarf Earthquake is going to allow me to potentially pop a Shuka if it was Shuka, or just get plenty of damage off on it, to where even though he has that +1 defense, he is at risk to dying to my Zygarde at this point, which again, very, very clutch. I believe I go for a Dragon Dance here, because I would have lived a +1 play rough pretty easy, and then would have outsped and killed it, essentially 2-hit KO'd it, things like that. As I am going to sub here, I'm trying to chip down this Milo into range to where it can potentially just die to me. We're going to go hard Vapo though. Going to be able to throw up a Wish, which is again very, very solid. Vapo's again serving as a great pivot into this thing. It is going to Toxic, but we do have the Heal Bell option. We can always Heal Bell on the Heatran very, very easily, which I will definitely take. I believe I just throw off a Scald here in case he wants to make the aggressive pivot into Zera. I don't want to allow that thing in for free if I don't have to, as the Heatran actually comes out as we get off a big Scald right here, putting this thing down to 53%. I believe I go for the heal or the Wish this turn. Or no, I go for the Heal Bell, which is very solid. And then I go for the Wish the next turn, and then Odin's going to make the call, though. He's going to get the play correct. He's going to get into Zera for free, which is definitely unfortunate, but not the biggest deal in the world, if you get me, because he's going to make the double out first, which means my Zygarde doesn't actually get intimidated, and I do get to get back up to full because of the Wish. And because I know this thing is Scarf and not overly defensive, I know that it won't 2-hit KO me, even if it's Adamant Scarf, and I know I can 2-hit KO it with +1 arrows, and I will outspeed it because I crept a Scarf Landers. So we are going to take a ton of damage right here, but not the biggest deal in the world. He's going to sack off his Heatran, keeping that Landers in the back, which again makes a ton of sense, but I have things that can take hits from it at this point still. So out comes the Milotic. It's actually going to recover as I sub. I think this is fine because it's going to allow me to get 2 arrows off and a little bit more Toxic. So, and if he didn't recover there and he Ice Beamed, he was in range of the next Toxic, and I actually just kind of won the game. So definitely very solid. And I didn't see an opportunity to ever get set up again. I didn't see an opportunity to ever Wish up again. Maybe on the Zera clicking Plasma Fist, but not too many there, as the Milo is going to take me out with Ice Beam, but at the very least is in range of Nightshade. I don't have to worry about it being Rocky Helmet either, and me being Seismic Toss. So the Milo is going to go down, out comes Landers, and this gets a little bit iffy, because I kind of have to recover spam, right? Because I am Pressure, so I will Pressure Stall this thing out of Earthquakes, if it stays in, right? Because now it's at 10, right? And this turn it'll be down to 8. So I am going to potentially Pressure Stall this thing. I do need to make sure I stay out of range of it, or out of range of a knockoff or anything like that from the last 2 members. As out comes the, what do you call it? The Mienshao. Sorry, I'm blanking on the name. And this is a bit of a 50-50, right? Because if this thing goes for a knockoff, well, it's not really a 50-50, because in my head, I think my play is always to Nightshade, because if it knocks off, I'm still out of range of Lander's Earthquake, and I'm still out of range of the Zeraora as well. So if Zeraora comes in, I believe I can potentially, it's going to be tough to beat it because it is bulk up, but we'll see what we can do, and if Landers comes in, I can just recover in its face forever, which I will definitely take. If the thing knocks me off, I'm still out of range, and if it Swords Dances to try and break past me like that, I can Nightshade and knock it out. So I think my play in this instance is always Nightshade, and I still do stand by that play. I think that play's fine. However, Odin really reveals some really cool tech in Fling. Didn't think of Fling, and I guess it was a bit of a 50-50 in his mind, because if I did recover here, I guaranteed won the game, because this thing could not really touch me otherwise. I would have just Nightshaded the next turn, but obviously I wasn't expecting it, because it was a really cool bring. Honestly, like a really solid bring. And this Fling is unfortunately going to put me in range of Lander's Earthquake, and I don't have a pivot into it. I don't have a way of stalling it out. My Vaporeon will be too acute at this point as well, so I can't save that and potentially do that as an option. This basically sealed our fate. That was a very good bring and a very good play by Odin there. So unfortunately, the Landers is going to come out. It Earthquakes. It is going to knock us out, unfortunately, and then we're going to be able to go on Vaporeon. I don't even bother wishing up. Maybe I should have wished up, because I could have burned the Zera, but regardless, we're going to lose this game 1-0. Very close game. I'm not super upset with how that played. Maybe I should have wished up right there. Probably would have been a little bit better of a play. I guess it drew out the game. I don't think we got O-code by Zera, so maybe if we Scald into burned it, there was an end game. Yeah, that, honestly, looking back at this game, a month later, 2 months later, yeah, I definitely should have wish-teched it up on the Landers. But, you live and you learn. Regardless, very solid game by Odin. Very cool set with the Mienshao. And, was able to knock us off our 3-game win streak. We're going to have to bounce back, hopefully get another win streak going, and sneak into playoffs. I believe we're 3-2 at this point. Definitely not playing bad, not playing great. And as you guys have seen, I haven't mentioned it probably since the draft analysis portion of the video. I still haven't clicked rocks. Still haven't brought rocks to Hazard's defense. So we've been doing this all without Stealth Rock, or really any hazards in general. I have not brought spikes either, just because I don't ever click them and boots exist. I don't know. It's just something interesting to keep in the back of your mind. I have not once brought rocks, and maybe that's why we lost a couple of these games. I don't know. Also, it is a bit of a disadvantageous thing, though, because a lot of these people aren't running boots versus me, because they don't really need to run boots versus me, because I don't have hazards. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into week 6. Alright, week 6 we get to go up against my good buddy Ishan. Very cool dude. And a pretty interesting matchup. We're going against a Sheer Force Lander's Eye and a Weavile. Mega Ult is very scary for our team. Obviously it's not a regular Altaria. I don't think I've seen anybody draft that ever, actually. Maybe I have. I've never seen anybody use it, at least well. Then we have an Arcanine, which is a great Mega Scizor check. And that's kind of the main stopgap to this team, is you're going to see as SD Scizor kind of wins the game as soon as that thing is chipped or gone. Mostly gone. It has to be 2% to die. It must do Bullet Punch, to be completely honest. And then Roadride is going to be very annoying with potential spikes and things like that. And throwing off sleep powders and things like that. I switch into it well, but if it starts putting things to sleep and spike stacking me, it's definitely going to be very unfortunate. We can look at the team really quick. I believe I was just SD knockoff, Bullet Punch, Roost, Mega Scizor. If I catch the Arcanine with a knockoff, that's obviously very solid. And get rid of its item, as I think it'll probably be leftovers. I don't think it needs to be boots versus me. Oh no, I brought Stealth Rock this game. So that's why I was knockoff. I was Seismic Toss, Stealth Rock, Recover, Taunt. So I did bring it. I'm totally clickbaiting in the title then, because I'm lying through my teeth then. So we did bring rocks. Those spoilers, I don't actually click it. So is it really clickbait? I don't think so. We also have a Heavy Duty Boots Vaporeon, Max for Def. The reason we're Heavy Duty Boots is because we can avoid Landers 2-hit KOs. However, Spikes kind of takes that away. So I want to make sure that we do avoid that 2-hit KO and have our booties, on deck. As you see, we have 2 other booties. We also have just a 4 attacks. Thunderous. Again, we don't have Volt Switch this time, but its coverage is very good in this game. And then we have a 4 attack to boot Cinderace with Pyro, Zen, Gunk, and U-Turn. Adamant as well. And then we have an Assault Vest Muck, as per usual. Wish Vapo plus AV Muck is kind of a constancy, and then like some kind of stall breaker Dio. It really does happen pretty much every week. But let's go ahead and start off the game. We are going to lead off with Scizor as he leads off with Slowbro. This gives me a great lead because I'm just going to Mega Knockoff expecting the Arcanine. Fortunately, stays in and goes for a Toxic. I don't necessarily know why. Maybe me fearing like a Flamethrower or Fire Blast from this thing, but unless it's Domey offensive, I chew. And there's no way it's Domey offensive in this matchup when I have Vapo plus Muck just to absolutely munch from it. And then plenty of ways of revenging it, like Thundy and stuff like that. So I'm going to make the Muck play this next turn. As he does withdraw and go into his Arcanine, I am going to stay in and try and chew up this Wisp, which I figured might potentially come out and get off a knockoff. Because again, I did bring Rocks this time, so if I can get up Rocks, my Scizor does really, really well in just being an absolute nuisance for this team. He does miss. I did have Heal Bell in the back, and you're going to see this damage is negligible anyways. It's not like it's really going to help too much in the end game. But the next turn I am able to pivot out into Vaporeon, which is solid, as I believe this is a pretty free Rosary for him. So I make a double, but he has Teleport. I always forget Arcanine gets Teleport because I one, don't see get drafted a ton, and two, I don't see run it that much. I don't know. I just noticed this. Matt said $10 and I'll send you Ishan's Pokebase. I did not see that during the game. I might send him $10, I'll be honest. But we're going to go into Cinderace. Unfortunately, not catching that Rosary because of the Teleport, but we can at least U-turn, get a crit, do 42. It's really sad that a crit does 42 as it teleports itself, so we're kind of in the vortex a little bit here as Weavile does end up coming out, but I have a very free Mega Scizor. I'm not super worried about that, as I believe I make the double this turn, or do I just knock off? I do make the double into Thundy, knowing that this thing can throw off big damage. I actually go for a Psychic, reason being, I didn't think he would let this thing take a Thunderbolt. Maybe he was just like trying to deter Nasty Plot because he could do a lot. I have Psychic because it caught the Rosary and it did a lot of damage to Landers trying to come in on the T-Volt. Because I didn't think he would have let this thing take damage because he doesn't have his boots anymore, which he did like get knocked off. And my Mega Scizor 6-0s him. And he's seen that I don't have U-turn because I've been making double. So he should know that I'm SD or Curse or something like that, obviously. But he's not making that play, which is, again, very, very interesting to note. He does end up Flare Blitzing here. And in my head, I'm like, cool, I just kill it with Thunderbolt. I completely blanked on Arcanine again. Yeah, maybe it's just because I summon I don't play a lot. Maybe it's just me being ass. But it E-speeds me and actually picks me off. But again, I'm not super worried. This thing's actually in range of Rock. Wait, please don't click Rock Zone. Okay, I click Seismic Toss. Thank God, no clickbait. So we knock out the Arcanine, really, really opening up our endgame. Out comes the Landers, and it clicks Calm Mind. This is pretty scary, but I know I can live any one hit guaranteed. Because that does 68 a ton, and we get off a big Scald. I basically needed to ensure that this thing was in range of my Cinderace Pyro Ball, which you're going to see right here I do go into, because it is potentially in range. Slowbro comes in, but there's no reason for me to risk that. I have to sack something if I don't get that play right. And I can U-turn and at least chip this thing down a ton, as it does end up going for a Scald, and it does end up burning me. Very, very unfortunate. I am just going to go for a knockoff, though, because I can, or no, I go for a Crunch, because it does more damage than no item Slowbro, and then I can potentially try and bait Poisons. Ult's going to come in, it's going to say on Mega and Dragon Dance, obviously to not take super effect on the Poison Jab. I'm just trying to bait Poisons at this point, though, and chip it down to Rage of Scizor. It does DD and Earthquake. Mega Scizor is going to come out next. I'm going to Bullet Punch just in case it's Fire Move. I don't think Fire Move would have killed me from there, because they were mixed, but again, not the biggest deal in the world. DOD is going to come out next, as it does end up taking a ridiculous amount from that Earth Power. Thankfully, I get off a Seismic Toss, and I was talking to Ishan after this game. I remember he was like, wow, you're a really fast Dio. He had a Komodo on his team, and I remember, and I did not want to allow free setup on Komodo because it kind of did me dirty as well. So I had enough speed for Komodo so I could taunt it and stop it from setting up. And because of this, he didn't think I would creep that much with Dio, so he was really, really either modest or like, he was playing modest pretty bulky in order for him to underspeed me, and that was really, really clutch in all honesty, because now it is indeed in range of my Mega Scizor. So I believe I Swords Dance this turn. No, I do just end up Bullet Punching. That's fine. I don't know why I didn't Swords Dance, because we're going to do it this turn. Not the biggest deal in the world. He is going to Scald. Not get the burn this time, but we're going to Roost. I'm just going to try and stay as healthy as possible. Even if I get burned, I know I can set up on this thing because it hasn't shown Fire Move. So I'm not super worried, and Fire Move wouldn't kill me from full at all. So we do get punished right there. We do finally get burned, unfortunately. But again, it's not that big of a deal because once we get up to +6, we do 2-hit KO with +6 knockoff of no item. even though we are burned, obviously, because it's just so goddamn strong. But we're gonna go ahead and go for a Rooster here as Weavile come in. We're just gonna Bullet Punch. Don't have to play very aggressively or anything crazy like that, because we can just knock off the Slowbro the next turn, and then Roost again as he does make a pivot into Road Raid. That's fine. I'm assuming just trying to get up to full just in case. We just Oko the Road Raid even though we're burned. Out comes Slowbro. We're going to knock it off. We do 52, as it is going to pivot out with the Teleport. Again, completely fine, because it's not like it can really teleport into anything. So I am just going to Bullet Punch this turn, and then again, just knock off once again. No, I Roost. Okay, that's fine. I believe it Scalds here. Again, completely fine. There's no reason for me to play super over aggressively, and I don't think this thing actually has Slack Off, or it probably would have clicked it at this point. We see probably get a max roll there, because we did 52 the first time we knocked it off with no item. So some min-max going on, but again, just kind of a very slow and painful end game, because we Roost right here just in case, and then we're going to be able to Bullet Punch the Landorus, which is fine, and then we're going to be able to knock off the Slowbro, which is again fine. Gonna knock it out, and then out comes Weavile, last member. We obviously blow it ass backwards with a +6 Bullet Punch, even though we're burned. So down goes that. That was honestly probably our best check to it. It was probably potentially like, it could have been like some like Sash counterplay, but then I Sash counter Weavile, but then I also had Cinderace to potentially pick it off after that, because we don't die to one Cinderace and it's at full, especially if it's not Choice Band. So that's going to be that game. Mega Scizor Body Bag, we will always take it. Gotta buff up its kills. This mon's very solid. I've absolutely loved using it this season so far. Let's see if it can do something for us in Week 7. Alright, Week 7, we are playing Hacker Killer 557. Now, just a warning, this game is ridiculously long. I just have a very naturally built team, and so does Hacker, and he brought a very fat build, as did I. My build's honestly a little bit more fat than his, but he brought some cool stuff, and I do want to give a precursor. You're going to see the chat right here. There's a lot of shit talking. It was jokes. Like, Hacker was shit talking me, and I was shit talking him back. It was jokes. It was me calling him shit, and then him calling me bad, and me calling him lucky, and then telling him I'm in his head and stuff like that. It's okay. Nobody yell at me. It's alright. I promise. But you're gonna see the things that he brought. He brought Mega Gallade, which 6-0 body bags me. Is very good versus me, so I have to be very careful. Aegislash, which also does really well versus me. Greninja, Mandibuzz, Hippowdon, and a Diancie. Now, with this team, we have a Stallbreaker Dio, which actually does very, very solid. We're Nightshade, Taunt, Toxic, Recover. I believe we are a Dragon Dance. Are we Dragon Dance Protect? I don't know. I know that we're Protect Toxic. Yeah, I think we're Mono Arrows, Protect Toxic, Dragon Dance, Arrows, Zygarde. Then we're an SD Scizor, we're SD Bullet Punch, Knockoff, and Roost, which is a great win con in this endgame, especially if we can chip down the Hippo, which I think we can. We're Heal Belling, Vaporeon with Scald, Heal Bell, Wish, and Tect. And then we also have a, I believe we're Double Dance, or at least Nasty Plot Thunders, which also absolutely rips the team that Hacker has if we can play it well. And then we have an Assault Vest Muck to check things like not only Aegislash, but also Greninja and things like that. So let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to be playing this game a little bit faster, just because of the fact that I don't want to be sitting here for 8 hours commentating this game, because it's already the 7th game of today, and I am tired of that. So he's going to lead off with Mandibuzz, I'm going to lead Dio. I'm actually going to go ahead and throw off a Toxic. Now, it would suck to get knocked off, but it's not the end of the world, and it would suck to get Toxic, but I do have Heal Bell in the back, so I'm not super worried. Attacker actually ends up going for a Taunt, assuming he'd be faster than me, but I don't know what's with people and thinking you don't run speed on Dio, because you very much so do. And I'll take the Toxic off on the Mandibuzz for sure, as we are able to, get that off on it and really chip it down to where other things on our team can do very well. We are going to pivot right into Vaporeon. We're going to get our boots knocked off, but not too big of a deal. I'm going to throw off a Scald. Greninja's going to come in. It's going to show leftovers. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I want to scout for potential like Toxic or anything like that, just because I see leftovers Grand. I think like, oh, this is going to be some annoying shithead set. And it definitely was, as it does end up going for a Toxic as I go hard into Muck, which I will definitely take. I get a free knockoff here. We knock off the Hippowdon, which actually ends up being Bootsy. He's probably scared of Spike's Dio, which makes sense. Spike's Dio actually isn't very bad versus him, but I like this set a little bit more. He's going to make a great double out into Greninja. Unfortunate, but not the biggest deal in the world. I'm going to make the hard Muck play as he shows Taunt. So we know it's Taunt and Toxic. I'm assuming Scald, and then some fourth move, maybe Dark Pulse, maybe Ice Beam, some annoying nuisance type set. As we do get the pivot out, I go for a Poison Jab, obviously knowing that the Gren is going to probably switch out. If it doesn't, phenomenal. But if it does, I get I get a pretty good poison chance into the Hippowdon, which I'll definitely take, because I don't know if I'll be able to poison it with my Dio necessarily. Now that he knows I'm toxic, it might not happen. So I'll take any kind of poison on this thing that's humanly possible, to be completely honest. So we are going to get chipped down a little bit by sand, make the play right back into a Deoxys, as he does make the grand play as I taunt this turn. Now, in hindsight, taunt wasn't a great play. I think I wanted to prevent rocks, but realistically, either Gren or AG was coming in. If I would have toxic this Gren, amazing. But realistically, playing Nightshade was probably my safest play. Not the biggest deal in the world, but you know, not too bad of a play. Also, he hadn't seen taunt yet, so he might have tried to get up his rocks or toxic me or something like that. So I'm not super opposed to it. He's gonna make the pivot into AG as I go Vapo. I get a free Scald here, and I realize that Scald burning this Greninja is going to be absolutely paramount in me winning this game. This Greninja is gonna sit here and gain passive recovery with leftovers the entire match, if not. So I'm gonna try and bait a Scald. Hopefully over the course of this game. You're gonna see the water is very cold though. He does make a Scald play right here, calling my switch into Muck that I've made a bunch of times. Not too big of a deal. I believe I double into Deoxys Defense, which is great, because it's going to force me to Age Slash. He does go Age Slash to Greninja this time as I try and Toxic and catch it, so it makes sense. Thankfully, though, I can't go into Muck right here. He does go for a Shadow Ball, and we take 8% from that. As he does King Shield this next turn, as we go Hard Thunderous. I believe this next turn, I am going to Nasty Plot up, as he does go for a Shadow Ball. And now this turn, I make a bit of an overplay. I won't lie, because in my head, I'm like, he saves this thing. He's gonna King Shield again, so he lives the +2 hit, and then potentially, you know, revenge me after that. So I make a play of going for Nasty Plot again, whereas I probably should have. No, I Thunderbolt. Okay, so I Thunderbolt. So if anything, I make the second Nasty Plot play there, not anywhere else. But this next turn is when I make Nasty Plot play, and that's why it makes no, I just Thunderbolt. Okay, so maybe it's just me being bad. Maybe it's just me being bad. I don't remember why I remember me Nasty Playing twice. I know I did sack my Thunders very early, which is super unfortunate, because if you look at his team, +2 Thunder really just killed everything. I would have absolutely loved to keep that thing around, but unfortunately it does go down. We get a lot of chip on the AG in the meantime, though. Hippo's going to come out. We are going to be able to Swords Dance up right here. I believe I knock off, do literally nothing, as it ends up whirlwinding me out into my Zygarde. And I see this is my opportunity to finally get that Toxic off on the Hippo. You see, it's not even a 2-hit KO with Ice Fang, because Zygarde is so goddamn bulky. As we try and protect here, get a little bit of lefties back. DNC comes out. I decided to go off, throw off some arrows in case it wants to rocks up. Not let it have a free turn, and obviously I don't die to any one hit, so I'm not super worried about that, as it does go for a Heal Bell. However, as unfortunate as that is, that the Hippo lost its Toxic, the Mandy lost its Toxic, now I can't Heal Bell again. So if I get that burn of the Toxic off from the Gren, as well as the Mandy and the Hippo again, they're pretty much there to stay. I don't see an opportunity in which it ever gets it up again, because Dio can taunt, arrows, Bullet Punch, Scald, and then I think Muck kills it from that range, or at least does a chunk to it, to where it'll pick it off the next turn with the Shadow Sneak. That's really the only member I can get that off on, so we're going to make the play. We're going to just go ahead and go for another arrow so Mandy comes in. Not too big of a deal. I'm going to pivot out into Scizor. I really wish I was U-turn instead of like SD knockoff right now. But not the biggest deal in the world. We're going to be able to make the play into Deoxys. I believe I go for Recover, as Gren does end up coming out. So good aggressive switch by Hacker. Obviously getting in on me as I try and, you know, recover out. Obviously Toxic not really coming out as much that turn. As we are able to chip down this Hippo right here, I believe it does go for a Slack off itself. We do get that Deoxys play in. Aegislash finally comes in. Owen, you're just not getting the calls right, man. If I went for Nightshade, I don't know if I 2-hit KO'd, but it would have done a chunk. Would have at least made it to where this thing just wasn't very good the rest of the game, and it made it to where my Dio honestly just kind of 6-0'd from that point. But we're going to go hard Vaporeon. We're going to get Spadef dropped, unfortunately. I'm going to protect here, as he is just kind of staying in Clayton Shadow Ball, because he probably doesn't die from a Scald from there. But after we get healthy enough right here, I believe I throw up a Wish right here as a King Shields. Probably expecting me to Scald again, but it's completely fine. I'm going to go ahead and Scald. Water is cold as per usual, though unfortunately we're not going to burn the Gren, as he ends up going for a Scald here, so we're kind of forcing ourselves to make a little bit more aggressive plays, as he is going to Scald right here. We do get the Wish up with our Muck, and we're not going to get burned, which again I will for sure take. Hippowdon's going to end up coming in. I knock it off, no poison, but not the biggest deal in the world. I can potentially get a Toxic on it later, or potentially get that later, so again, not the end of the world. As he do make a double into Zygarde here, expecting the AG. He goes for another Earthquake, not really fearing the Toxic, which is definitely interesting, because I don't think he's going to get that opportunity to Heal Bell again. Otherwise, it would make a little bit of sense, but after some protects and stuff like that, I go and pivot back out into Vaporeon, go out into Muck. He does call me on that one. He goes for Scald, and he gets the burn, so water. The tap's cold for me. The tap's not cold for Hacker, unfortunately. As he does get the burn, I get the pivot into my Vaporeon. I'm just going to throw off a Heal Bell. And I believe this turn, I just try and bait a Scald Burn. Or he's going to go for a Toxic. He's going to miss. I could have Heal Belled that off later, but I'll definitely take it. We're going to burn the Greninja, and amazing. That plus Sandstorm is going to make it to where this thing doesn't get to sit at 100% anymore. As he is going to Toxic this turn into my Vaporeon. Do I go for a Scald here? I do go for a Scald, calling him to try and catch my Muck. I just go ahead and Wish Up, and then I pivot back out into Muck. He tries to Toxic me that turn. Now my Muck's healthy. This Greninja is about, 30% lower than it was, and both of my Pokemon are healthy. So I'll definitely take it. I go for an Ice Punch, do literally 25, which is genuinely sad. And then we get out into Vaporeon, which is great. He's going to go for an SD with this Gallade. I figure I can't really let it do that for free. I'm going to Scald, try and bait some burns, but unfortunately, again, water is pretty cold today. And then I'm going to sack off Muck, because I see as my least useful at this point, because the Gren is chipped down. I go into Scizor, because at -1, that was in range of Bullet Punch. And then I'm going to go ahead and go into my Scizor. I'm going to go for a Swords Dance, because I don't know why I assumed this, but I saw that it was knockoff, so I was like, no way he's taunt knockoff Foul Play Roost. He's probably like Toxic or U-Turn or Defog or something like that if he's so scared of spikes. Thinking like there's no way he's Foul Play. I can set up on this thing and be in a really good spot for the Hippowdon potentially coming in. But he is Foul Play. I do fortunately live, but +2 Bullet Punch doesn't kill him from there, so there's no reason for me to stay in. I go into my Deoxys, who actually doesn't even have his sub broken by Foul Play. He's going to take a little bit of Rocky Helmet, which I will definitely take. And then we can go back into Vapo, which is going to be our main Age/check now that Muck is dead and gone. I'm just going to throw off a big Scald here, get a burn finally. Second one of the game. Thrown off a lot of Scalds here, but we'll definitely take it. Right here, I'm going to go for a Wish. He does make a good plan, go for a Shadow Ball. But honestly, this is fine, because I believe this gives me a pretty darn free Scizor, because I can knock off and then get myself back up healthy. If he wants to stay in and try and, call me from that, then I obviously can just Roost and be fine there. But Dio's going to come out. Hippo's going to go ahead and recover. I want a Nightshade, expecting the AG to come in, but thankfully, Gren comes in, and that thing being gone is ridiculously nice for me, because I still do have an AG check in my Scizor. I have more AG checks than I kind of initially let on, now that I'm thinking about it, obviously. I'm going to SC on the Mandibus coming in, and then I double out, because I don't think it'll actually kill, but he goes Hippo, so maybe I did miscalc that, and he did potentially die to a +2 Bullet Punch, and he wanted to keep it around. I didn't want to die to a Foul Play, so I just went hard Deoxys, as the Hippowdon ends up coming out. I believe I go for a Toxic here on the Diancie. I believe this next turn I just go for a Taunt. Nothing this thing can do can really threaten me if it's not, if it's an attacking move. At the very least, I would have to Calm Mind a ton first or something like that. Is this going to Mystical Fire here? I recover up to get as healthy as humanly possible. And then I believe this next turn is Nightshade and knock it out as it's in range, because DNC has like barely any HP. This next turn I'm going to go Scizor as he doubles into the Gallade. This is unfortunate because I do have to Scout for Fire Punch at the very least, because if I lose Scizor, I'm in a pretty tough spot if this thing ends up SDing up again. So I'm going to make the play into Zygarde. I am just going to throw off a big 1,000 arrows. And thankfully, it's actually puts the Mandibuzz into a KO range. I believe we got a pretty high roll that second time, which was definitely great. We're going to protect here as the Hippo ends up coming out. And then the turn afterwards, I do throw off a Toxic. Now, in hindsight, I don't think this was a great play because, while I live, I was out of range of a Gallade hit that was an Ice Punch or Triple Axle, which he didn't click prior, which tells me he doesn't have it, because there's no way. He saw that we weren't Yashi, he saw that we were leftovers. Tells me that his close combat couldn't kill us from that 50%-ish range. And now it can, and that's definitely very, very unfortunate. He's going to Whirlwind me out, prevent my leftovers here. Definitely less than ideal, and that Gallade has just gotten a lot more scary, because I could have done the same exact thing with my Deoxys, potentially. But right here, the Hippo's going to get down to 40%. He's going to make a good pivot onto the AG on my pretty much forced recover turn. And right here, I believe I do go into Zygarde on the Gallade doubling in. Close combat is going to take me out from this range, which is definitely super unfortunate, but I do get to go into my Scizor from here, and I am in a good spot. I'm going to Swords Dance here just in case he wants to slack off up. Which is definitely unfortunate that he ends up going for Whirlwind. Definitely his best play. If I could position that +2 Scizor, I am in a winning position from here. Even if I get +1 because the AG catches me with the King Shield, I'm still in a fine position to win the game. Unfortunately, he does Whirlwind me out. Dio is going to come out, and I believe I just finish him off with a Nightshade. So another kill for Dio. Going absolutely buck wild this game, to be completely honest. And then AG comes out. I'm just going to Nightshade this thing. Reason being is because if I die, I actually win with Scizor. I can set up a Swords Dance, and then knock off into bullet punch and win the game. So right here I'm going to make a little bit of a questionable play, and looking back it probably wasn't my smartest play, because what I could have done is just recover up until this thing was in range of Nightshade, and then guaranteed me the Glade potentially put in range if I could get off a Nightshade into a bullet punch for my Scizor. But I'm gonna go for a taunt here, and this is a pretty stupid play. My idea thinking was, if he kills me with Shadow Ball, I get into Scizor, I get a Swords Dance, and I win. But Hacker doesn't want that position. He doesn't want to let in the Scizor for free on anything but Glade, because Glade's the only thing that can kill it from this range. So if he goes into AJ, I obviously get if I get in on AJ, I get a free Swords Dance, which is very much less than ideal. What I should have done, instead of just sacking off my Deoxys, this play, I should have just gone hard Scizor. There was no reason not to. This thing was burned, so Shadow Ball into Sneak definitely didn't KO me. So unless he got a Spadef drop, I was in a winning position. So I definitely think that was a very dumb play, because I also lost my only thing I could take a hit from Glade pretty much from this. I'm going to taunt as he sneaks, trying to make sure he doesn't kill me. And then I believe I kill it right here with Helmet as he KOs himself to Helmet. So again, a very free Scizor play that I just decided to not take, unfortunately. And now I have a 4% Deoxys. I'm going to go down to a Fire Punch. Just going to bring this thing down to 32. But thankfully, we get bailed. Scizor is able to get a pretty high roll on the Mega Glade, which I'll definitely take, and we're able to take it out. I definitely had an easier endgame there, though, where I didn't need to just put things up to chance and put things up to that roll. I definitely should have for sure just gone hard Scizor and either roosted or potentially yeah, because I could have roosted in the sense that even if the Glade comes hard in, I bullet punch it, and then it's in range of Helmet potentially, or at least a Nightshade from the thing, and then I can just beat the Hippowdon 1v1 with my Deoxys. So I had a very easy endgame there. I definitely fumbled it. Maybe it's because it was so goddamn long, but you see we got a very, very high roll there. I did 35-ish max, and he was at 32, so not super, super high, but I'll definitely take it. Live and learn, do better next week, basically, and yeah, we're able to win week 7, though. Alright, last week of the regular season, we're going up against Cody, Robot Boy. Very, very cool dude. He's got a pretty scary squad, too. He's rolling up with the Mega Mawa Gliscor team. Also got a Keldeo, Zarude, what do you call it? The Slowking and the Bronzong. I do think we have actually a very good matchup in this game, and I'm pretty excited for it. I believe we're just like a Roost, knockoff, Bullet Punch, U-Turn, Scizor, pretty standard. We're a Double Dancing Zygarde with Dragon Dance, Coil, Skitter Smack, and Arrows. Does ridiculously well in this matchup. Can just auto-win when the Gliscor goes down. Then we have a Choice Band, Cinderace, which looks odd against Double Water, but I don't think his Double Water really takes on Band Ace very well. U-Turn does a ridiculous amount of Slowking, and Keldeo is known for its bulk, unfortunately, and if I can catch that with a Zen Headbutt, it pretty much just drops. Everything else just gets to it KO by Banded Pyro Ball. So if I can position it well, I think it's good. We got a 4 attacks mixed Tauros once again, Ice Beam for the Gliscor, then I believe we're Body Slam, Earthquake, Throat Chop for everything else. Wish Tech, Tail Bell, Vaporeon, and then an Assault Vest Muck, I think. So again, just the 1-2 duo of Trick House for me. Let's go ahead and jump into it, though. I believe I lead off with Cinderace. Seems like a pretty free lead. We see Slowking, and I'm banded, and I do, 46, saying that that's max Fizdef guaranteed. Took absolutely nothing. I go into Vaporeon and dodge Toxic. Unfortunately, again, I had Heal, so I'm not super worried, but he's going to make a double into Keldeo, telling me he's like sub-Calm Mind for sure. But I'm able to get off a big knockoff, as this is probably my best check to Keldeo. I wasn't going to use Vaporeon to check it. As right here, he's going to try and 3-KO me with the Sacred Sword, but after a knockoff into a Poison Jab, I'm able to chip this thing down, and now I'm going to go into my Vaporeon. Actually, he shows Flip Turn, which is definitely interesting for sure, but because of this, I do feel pretty comfortable in throwing up Wish. Even if he is Taunt, it's fine, he just dies to another turn after that. And right here, I'm going to pick it off with Scald, down it goes, and get back up to basically full HP, which I'll definitely take. Out comes Zarude. Not the best for me, but I do get to go into Scizor pretty freely. It does U-Turn, so very solid play. Out into the Gliscor, I feel pretty comfortable going for U-Turn. I know Earthquake's going to kind of bounce off of me. I'm a Scizor. It's kind of what I do. That U-Turn. As he ends up going for Toxic, predicting me to switch into potentially Vaporeon, I'm assuming, so getting in for free is definitely really clutch. He goes for Toxic. I kind of wish I was Ice Beam, Because you see, I think Ice Beam definitely would have killed if Skull did 62, or to put it at a point where it doesn't roost this off very well at all. But unfortunately, he is going to pivot out here. I do get a burn on the Slowking, which is going to be great for chipping it down for a Cinderace endgame to potentially win, or potentially our Zygarde endgame, which I'll definitely take. But then, pivot down to Zarude happens. I go for a Heal Bell because I know that thing can't really touch me too well, and I can pivot out accordingly. I'm going to go for a Protect, as I think it might be choice locked at this point. It goes for a Power Whip, and then I'll make the pivot into Scissor, but we do see that it is not choiced, which is, again, good information to know. I know my Zygarde will be faster at +1. Out comes the Gliscor, and I see why he predicted me, because he has Fire Fang. Fire Fang doesn't 2-hit KO, but he does get the burn, which is going to force me into a pretty early Heal Bell, which is definitely unfortunate. But I'm going to go into Tauros, and this is screaming I have Ice Beam, right? Absolutely screaming. And because of this, I do expect Cody to scout for that and go into something like Slowking or Bronzong. Realistically, Bronzong's probably his best play, but I go for a Body Slam on the off chance that I can get to Slowking, because it does give me phenomenal offensive initiative, as he does actually go into the Slowking, which I'll definitely take, and this kind of blessed that I don't have it later. And you see the burns extra clutch there, because that makes that not a roll when he's at full HP, guaranteed. As Bronzong's going to come out here, it takes 26 from that Body Slam, so if we just gotta put it in range of that Throat Chop to a KO, potentially be in a good spot. I am gonna go Vapo though. I can throw off a big Heal Bell as this thing Toxics me, getting my Scizor unburned, and then I believe I just throw off a Scald. I'm trying to chip this thing down, or whatever wants to come in, so that my Tauros can kind of win the end game, as Bronzong is going to make the Toxic play, which I'll definitely take. And then I believe I Heal Bell right here. No, I Scald trying to bait a burn on the Zarude. Unfortunately, don't get it. But again, I can Heal Bell later. Trick Room's going to end, so good positioning by Cody there. We get into Cinderace as he throws off a big Power Whip. We see that we're not 2-hit KO'd by Scarf, but obviously it isn't Scarf. We're going to go ahead and U-turn, do 51% to this Slowking. And I believe just U-turn again. If he wants to give me Slowking, I'll take it. I can roost on the Bronzong. And if he wants to give me offensive initiative on this Gliscor, I'll be in a good spot. So out comes Tauros, and I didn't show Ice Beam last time, so I do feel pretty comfortable clicking it now, especially because the Slowking is for sure in range of a Throat Chop afterwards. And thinking about it, if I expected to pivot onto Slowking and Bronzong, I probably should have clicked Throat Chop earlier, but it's fine. Now we're going to click Ice Beam. He does stay in, so he falls for it, and we're able to knock out big Gliscor there pretty well. So we're going to throw off a big Throat Chop. It does end up being Culverberry. If it wasn't, it just raw died to that move. And I was thinking like, oh shit, we're about to sweep with Tauros, or at least punch a fat hole in it. But it is Colburn, and is able to set up Trick Room. But I have a free Vaporeon. I can Wish and Heal Bell on this thing pretty easily. Not too worried about that in all honesty, as the Mawile does end up coming in. I believe I Heal Bell first, and then was going to throw up a Wish later in case this thing was Boom. But it is going to come in. It is going to knock off. I don't know what it was predicting. I don't have great switch-ins. I definitely wasn't going hard Scizor there in case it was like Fire Fang or anything like that. And I definitely can't Oko it from full. So at least that would be one. I'm at least able to stall the Trick Room and get a final burn before we do end up going down to the Play Rough. And I believe I just go into Zygarde right here. Now, Real Man would have set up a Dragon Dance to this thing's face because I lived. But I threw off an arrow just in case he ended up sacking it and maybe he got a crit or anything like that. But the Zarude's going to go for a bulk up here, as I do end up going for Dragon Dance. This is honestly fine. I'm able to throw off a big +1 Skitter Smack, bring it down to 6% as he actually ends up bulking up again, not knowing that that was a move. So I'm able to pick it off with 1,000 arrows despite it being at +2. Out comes a Slowking. It doesn't die, but because Skitter Smack lowers his special attack, I should live any one hit from this thing pretty darn easy. I lived an Ice Beam from it regardless, but now at -1, it's going to be bouncing because this is like max Fizz Def. So we're going to take a little bit of chip. Unfortunately, we get crit, so we do lose some differential. But this does allow us to get some fun Tauros kills. I think that actually would have tied Zygarde with Cinderace after like everything's said and done this season with final kills. But Tauros is going to come in. He's going to Throat Chop. This Sucker Punch does 20% because this Mawile is burned. I just can throw off another Earthquake pretty freely. And then out comes Slowking once again. I am going to go for a Throat Chop. And then I am going to knock out the Slowking and take home a 4-0 dub. Would have been nice to get the Zygarde kills, but, you know, who cares? We're able to go into playoffs. I believe is the 1 seed because we went 6-2. Had very good differential. But we have a pretty tough rematch round 1, so let's see how we do there. Alrighty, we have round 1 versus Lux here coming up. We have the same 6 as week 2. We ended up playing Lux and winning. However, I did change a lot of things. I changed the Scizor from U-turn to knockoff, just because I felt the Jellicent would for sure come after me sweeping him with just stabs last time, which would have been walled by Jellicent. Obviously, I took off Focus Blast off of the Deoxys defense, and I put Toxic instead to try and chip things down. I believe I'm the same muck set. I think I'm the same on all these other Pokemon. The first two are the only ones that really changed. You see the Luxus team changed a little bit. We see a Noivern. No, Noivern was there before. We see a Megalopony and a Jellicent this time, which are definitely scary, but we have Dio for Megalop, and then we can obviously, honestly, Dio does really well in general in this game, so we're being in a pretty good spot. Let's go ahead and jump into it. I believe he leads off with the Tyranitar just like last time. I lead off with Thundy, and this time, because I didn't scout for Scarf last time, I figured he might want to try and catch me off guard with that this time, so I am going to make the pivot out into Vaporeon, just because I think it's my best play overall. As you see, he throws off a Crunch, for sure banded, and he gets a Defense Drop. And this really blows, right? Because this is probably the only Pokemon on my team that could take 2 Crunches, just in general. It was the only Pokemon on my team that could do so. So I'm basically forced to pivot out here. After leftovers, I definitely took that. Unfortunately, I'm going to protect again. We're going to try and stall a little bit. I'm going to go into Muck, because again, I could take 2 Crunches at the very least. I could potentially turn and Wish Up later, but then I get Defense Drop, and that plus Sandstorm is going to be enough to 2-hit KO Big Muck there, which is A-okay. Very, very good to see. We're going to go into Zygarde right here as he actually ends up staying in. I try and Toxic and catch the Jellicent or something like that, because I figured he wouldn't want to let me set up, as he is just going to throw off another Bandit Crunch, so we are just getting absolutely done. We're getting done in right now, as he's going to make the hard Noivern play as I go for a Protect. Maybe should have gone for the arrows there at that point, but I wanted to keep health, just because I don't particularly deal with the rest of his team very well. But right here, we're going to go out into Thundurus. We're going to see that this is actually a Choice Specs Noivern. He's going to do 49%, but we should live the next one, so we can Volt Switch out, but we get high rolled. So we're going to go down right there. Dio's going to come out next. We're going to get Hurricane that does a good 54. He hits another one. We get confused again. I get off a Toxic off on this thing, because again, I didn't think he'd want to stay in, but it's all good. He's going to go for Hurricane. He's going to hit the next one, and yeah, that's basically the game. We got absolutely body bag 6-0'd. Now, am I going to protect? Oh, I do want to show something cool, because I think Luck brought a really cool set here. We're going to protect right here. This thing can potentially still win. Maybe. No, because I can't ever get up a DD. I get off 1,000 arrows because I think maybe my Scizor can win. If this thing is chipped down. Because actually, it really can. It's really not that bad in this game in general. But right here, I go for Protect, and I go down. Then Vaporeon comes out, and at this point, I think, like, hey, if he gives me this, I could still win. Like, if I dodge a Bolt Strike or something like that. But he actually goes for Roleplay, which is so cool, because what he did is he copied my Water Absorb, obviously, so I couldn't Scald him. I was actually walled by him. And you see the Victini heal from Water Absorb, which is cool. And at this point, I just forfeit, because the game is indeed over. Now, will I pretend like I won this game, and I got absolutely hacked out, right? No, I have no idea how the game would have gone, but I did feel like the game was kind of taken out of my hands from turn 1 with the double defense drops and the high rolls and the confusions, and I guess the confusions didn't actually end up mattering. It was just a very frustrating game overall. It's a very frustrating way to end the season. It's a very, very lackluster way to end the season as well after doing so well in regular season. But I did love this team, and I wanted to at least show you my regular season run, and I guess my playoff run as well, which just simply wasn't as long. But I figured I'd at least show you guys it. Show you that boots are insane to where we've reached a point in this metagame where I don't think I need to draft rocks anymore. I just don't. I brought them once this season, never clicked them. I didn't even remember bringing them because it just never really crossed my mind. It wasn't that big of a deal. I drafted a Steel Underground that couldn't rock, which in Gen 7, that would be a death sentence. I would never do that, especially with how much I drafted Zygarde in Gen 7. I would make sure my Steel could rock. But I was like, nah, I'll be good. And I was. I was fine. So I think that's pretty interesting to see the effect of boots on a metagame. Now, I will say, did it put me at a disadvantage in the sense that, 1, I didn't have rocks? Yeah. And 2, that people weren't running boots versus me as often. Like Noivern. That wasn't boots, that was specs. Maybe if I had better rockers, it would have felt less likely to do that. Or maybe Victini would have ran boots or something. I don't know. There's plenty of different options I think that potentially could have, changed my season, made it a little bit better. Unfortunately, again, body bag in round 1, but I thought the team was a lot of fun. I thought I had a lot of fun games, so I figured I would give you guys some draft content because I haven't been uploading a ton this last month just because school and work's been so busy. And I wanted to give you guys something at the very least because I know there's not going to be a lot of draft content until, honestly, like the next month or so. So if you guys really like these like kind of like movie style videos, I have other seasons that I've done. I have my old T runs, I have crash runs, I have other leagues that I've completed in the past that I just haven't uploaded because they're on Showdown. If you guys enjoyed this, please let me know and I will make more of them. It'll be good content to tie you guys over until BDSP leagues start. I'm going to be doing Wi-Fi battles though. I'm still doing Nuzlocking over on Twitch a ton and hopefully porting those over here. So if you guys want to watch those live and come hang out with me, you can follow me down there. Drop a like if you enjoyed, sub if you're new. Trying to shoot towards 600 by the end of the year, so if you can help me out, appreciate it. And yeah, that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Later.